Good. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Franklin Planning Board. This is the May 6th, 2024 meeting. This meeting is audio and video recorded. It's also on Zoom, and the Zoom call-in number is 312-626-6799, and the meeting number is 97410007698. We're going to take care of some general business first before we get into some of the other items for the night. Our first item of general business would be for an 81P for Martin Ave. If I could go to Amy to Department of Planning, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. They've submitted a 81P. This site is located in the single-family 4 zoning district, requiring 15,000 square foot lot size and 100 foot of frontage. They own both the lots. One currently has a single-family house in it. The other one is vacant, and they are proposing to create a buildable lot.
It meets all our criteria, obviously.
Yes.
Anybody have any comments, questions?
Just a comment, that's a multifamily dwelling on the adjacent lot 2.
If it is, I'm not sure if it is, but
is.
it is, okay. That doesn't really, but I
Shouldn't
mean,
affect.
It doesn't, just,
yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't affect for an A&R plan. Our plan has to just meet the lot frontage and the area. Thanks, Chris.
Anybody else? Question?
Make a motion to approve the A&R for Crescent Street and Martin Ave.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
You're all set, thank you.
Amy, would I pick that up tomorrow after signing, or?
Yes, hopefully we can get stuff signed tonight.
Okay.
Or the next day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, our second item of business for general business would be another 81P, for 110 Mill Street. If I could go to Amy at Department of Planning, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this lot's a little bit different. There's 2 separate owners of, one person owns one lot, another person owns the other lot. They're looking to acquire a back area that would be non-buildable, to, hand over to the adjoining lot. They do need that easement, which they've shown on the plans, to have access to that non-buildable lot.
So it's just a transfer of land, basically.
Yes.
All right. Anybody have any comments, questions?
Make
Chris,
a
Jay?
motion to approve the A&R plan, 81P for 110 Mill Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next item would be meeting minutes for March 11th and 25th. Does anybody have any additions, deletions? If not, make a motion to approve meeting minutes for March 11th, 2024 and March 25th, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, our next item of business will be a general business, and this is a public hearing. This will be initial public hearing for a zoning bylaw amendment 24-905. Make a motion to waive the reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Amy, if I could go to you, Department of Planning, please.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was back, in front of us back in November of 2023. Same proposal, nothing's been changed. There was a 1-2 vote. We did not have all 5 members due to the election that were able to vote. At the time, it went to town council. Town council referred it back to the planning board to see if there's any change in vote. This is to change 2 parcels on King Street to the, I think it's the business zoning, to allow, there's several options to, when we change this use, is to, it can potentially allow, by right, the nurseries, the greenhouse, the restaurants, retails. There's also by special permit by the planning board to include motor vehicle, boat, farm, sales, filling, or service stations. This is back in front of the planning board. There is several letters that we have received from the abutters, and there is a map showing the two lots that are being rezoned.
Okay, good, thank you. If you want to just introduce yourself for the record, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Joe Evans. I'm a principal owner, along with a partner in American East Coast One LLC. I'm a lifelong Franklin resident, former Franklin Town employee back in the day, and business owner in town. Been a couple of just successful projects that I've been involved in the town of Franklin. Most recently, the Glen Farmer Distillery, the Maple Gate Solar Project. I brokered the sale of that on behalf of the seller and the buyer. The Santa Fe Burrito Grill that I was directly involved in. And also myself and my partner have been involved in numerous other successful projects in Franklin, excuse me, while working with other developers. Before you tonight is a proposal for a rezone of land on King Street in Franklin. Consists of 2 parcels totaling 1.3 acres of land. 634 King Street is an undeveloped parcel and is currently owned by American East Coast One. We purchased the property in September after having favorable discussions with town officials, including Jamie Helen, Amy Love, and Gus Brown. Enthusiastic discussions, I would add. The property has gone undeveloped due to its current zoning of single-family residential. The zone change proposal then went before the Economic Development Committee, who voted 4-0 to recommend a zone change to business zoning. They also cited specific examples of success in other areas of town where precisely the same thing was done. In terms of the surrounding uses and the current zoning, the properties subject to the zoning amendment are bordered to the east by the King Street Fire Station, a 24-hour facility. To the west by an 81-unit senior assisted living facility, a 24-hour facility. And to the south by Northbridge EMC. Northbridge just purchased the Dell campus to the rear. And to the north by King Street. And to a 295,000 square foot warehouse proposal that this planning board granted a special permit for to be built diagonally across the street. Given the property's proximity to the on-off ramps of Interstate 495, it is a highly desirable location for a business use. And then I just want to cover a few of the reasons why it makes sense to support this zone change. Development of the property, obviously that is adjacent to the off-ramps of 495, is highly desirable in the marketplace. With development would come an enhancement to the tax base, likely a property tax based on valuations in the $4 to $6 million range, of course depending upon building size and improvements made, and also increases in potential meals tax, sales tax, and potential fuel tax. Depending upon the potential commercial use would result in additional jobs. Commercial use would also serve to alleviate an overburdened commercial district and associated traffic east of the area at the Union Street and King Street intersections. Right now, if you drive off 495 and cross under 495 from King Street, or if you were to go over to the Union Street side from the King Street area or the Washington Street area, if you live on that end of town, and you desire to go get a coffee, to go get gas, to go get your hair cut at the salon, or to go out to eat, or whatever it might be, you're gonna cross under eight traffic lights to get there and the way back. So 4 on the way there and 4 on the way back. Tonight, you're gonna hear from the neighbors, the abutters. We've had a few rounds at this already. So it's not gonna be shocking what I hear, and it probably won't be shocking what you hear either. But just to touch on that a bit, you're gonna hear right away opposition to a gas station. And I just wanna remind you that this hearing is not to review one particular use, nor is it to review a site plan of any proposed project right now. This is simply to look at whether or not this site is appropriately zoned as it stands now. This is also not a hearing to determine traffic patterns in or out of the site. Those discussions should take place once a site plan application is submitted, and those traffic concerns would be appropriately addressed at that time. This site is just frankly not appropriately zoned. It's surrounded by industrial and commercial uses on all sides. Any specific proposed uses will go through the application process that is in place: technical review, design review, planning board, and/or zoning board of appeals. Any uses that require a special permit will be scrutinized to the thresholds that are required to be met. That review process should not be done tonight, but rather at the appropriate time if and when a site plan application is submitted to the town. And with that being said, the town of Franklin is currently proposing a $7 million Proposition 2.5 override. We are a city of 37,000 residents. New business growth is essential to serve the needs of its residents and visitors, and to increase tax revenues to the town in order to serve the residents with essential police, fire, schools, and public works. Here you have an opportunity to pay for the salaries of a couple teachers who are at risk of getting laid off, or to buy that new ambulance, or to keep families from having to pay for bus transportation to and from school. I heard one of the vocal opponents argue at the last hearing that it was, quote, just one property, essentially saying that what difference does one property make? Imagine taking that position on every similar proposal put before you. Our town, as our other towns, are at serious risk of abutters and anyone in opposition to anything becoming the ruling class. Buy a house and then it's, quote, not in my backyard. We see it every single meeting in every single town. And I don't have to, every meeting that this planning board has had in the last few months, you see it over and over again. Opposition to absolutely everything. People living in projects that were at the time proposed that were considered controversial, now in opposition to any new development. It is quite frankly frustrating at times. I remind you that the planning board's job is to plan and to assist developers and property owners, not to simply reject a proposal because you envision a specific use that you may not find appealing. You have a duty to serve the needs and interests of all 37,000 residents, not just the abutters opposed here tonight. I would also like to address the change.org petition that was circulated by one of the abutters in response to my own change.org petition. And it was in the packet, the agenda packet online that I discovered, and she conceded that 30 to 40% of the signatures in the opposition were from out of town or out of state residents. So when I submitted my change.org petition, I specifically asked whoever to sign it that they were a Franklin resident to only sign it. I will also note a few of those signatures show up as other towns, but I know for a fact that those people live in Franklin. I would just ask that you support the proposal, fulfill your duty as members of the planning board to all the citizens of Franklin. And I want to end with this quote. And unfortunately, we're upstairs rather than downstairs because I believe the Ben Franklin, the town motto, is in the back of the, normally behind the board, which states, quote, industry need not wish. Well, that's not the entire quote that Ben Franklin said. He said, industry need not wish, and he who lives upon hope will die fasting. There are no gains without pains. Withheld hands, for I have no lands. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay. See a lot of people out there. I'm gonna go to the audience first before I go to the board. I'm just gonna put a 3-minute time limit on each resident, and all I ask is if you agree with the previous person, just acknowledge it without going back into the same information, okay? So if anybody wants to approach the mic, just please give your name and address.
Good evening, board members. Richard Chestercove, I live at 627 King Street. and I live right across the street from the two parcels that are gonna be, hopefully doesn't get rezoned. I'd just like to bring up a couple of points I think I've mentioned in my letter already. Now, 634 King Street has been attempted to be rezoned twice. Once in 1987 to industrial, and again 1998 to commercial. And both times it never went forward, okay? Other things I'd like to mention, all right, if this gets rezoned, business zone, it's actually gonna depreciate my home, right? To the left of my home, there's now a warehouse that's gonna go up in the back there, 255 square foot. And from what I understand, it's gonna be like 255 parking spaces up there and 16 trailers. Next concern is the traffic. Now, if the traffic coming out of there and the current traffic that's on King Street in the morning is unbearable, as you can see with one of the pictures that I gave you, okay? Let's see. Okay, and the noise and lighting, if it becomes businesses, will really affect my neighborhood and my home. And if the property, somebody mentioned that if the property was rezoned for residential, if somebody built a house there, their concern was the fire station. Well, I live directly across the fire station, and I see the fire station through my picture window every single day. Now, this person could build a home there, and they could extend the fence, 6-foot, 8-foot fence around the property. And that's about it on that area there. And the other impact I'm concerned about, what impact is it gonna have for the businesses just down the street? We got a gas station, we got a convenience store, we got a Dunkin' Donuts, we got beauty parlors, and we have other things down there. That's my main concern, and I hope you people won't rezone it. Thank you.
Thank you. Just name and address, please. Sure. For the record.
I'm gonna attempt this. Is this all right? Keep it down. You can still hear
Down and then
me.
roll it up. You get a lot of
Ian Duff,
feedback.
680 King Street. It's all right. I'm audible. I'm audible to the folks in the room. I don't know who's on Zoom. Good evening, Chairman Rondo and members of the Planning Board. Thank you for your time. You're hearing this false choice, this forced choice between no development at all and the change in zoning. And so I have a few comments for you. I'll try to be brief. I'll do my best. I'll keep it just about 3 minutes. If you recall my family from November, we love Franklin. We support smart growth. The change in front of you helps the realtor, but it hurts the residents. Business uses are out of character for the site. I'm going to try to hit this fast. You'll probably hear the argument, we've heard it a couple times in these hearings, it's not a residential site. That's not true. It's single family zoned, it has a family living on it. It has 2 homes abutting across the street, and the enclave abutting to the west may be staffed, but it's the biggest residence of all. It's full of residents. This isn't an innocent request to save an abandoned parcel, something stuck in limbo. It's been about building a gas station, a drive-through, or other high-traffic VSE since the beginning. Mr. Evans spent months soliciting town staff, as he just laid out to you, to support his idea and establish the contract with the homeowners before buying the property from Cumberland Farms, right? We're talking about both parcels here. This is all public record. Talking about zoning first paves the way for the real changes later. We should be talking about a variance or a special permit for a specific plan, but we're not, because the end goal is too far out of character to replace a family home on our street. I'll skip all that in the interest of time. It's not like other zoning changes in town. The footprint of the new zoning map and who the change benefits make it look, to me, like illegal spot zoning. The land court decides that sort of matter. No one is forcing their hand to ask for all of this, right? People are making money all over the Commonwealth developing every kind of property. Please note that after all this public pushback, the petitioners haven't said they will not attempt to build a gas station next to these homes and wetlands. You know about the petition. It's great. Our petition has 4 times the signatures, change.org. We'll put up the local IP of the signer, right, wherever they happen to be on a PC. The public benefit arguments you're hearing are just marketing, right? Saving us time at the traffic lights and alleviating Union Street traffic aren't based on any data. Any claims like these need to evaluate the local demand for specific uses that would affect traffic patterns. The statements don't stand up to common sense. The roadways aren't changing, but we add another retail destination, so more people end up getting off the highway, and we have net more vehicles, right? We're not taking away cars, we're not expanding roads. I think it stands to logic. But finally, please vote no on recommending this because of the physical reality of the site. I measured that myself, curb to curb. It's 39 feet wide at the beginning of the site, 49 feet wide at the boundary of the fire station. Traffic already backs up to Forest Street every morning. 555 King Street warehouse traffic will be added to that. The site in question will not support the kinds of high traffic business uses that a business zone allows. So thank you again for your support.
Thank you.
And your consideration, and please hear out my neighbors.
Thank you. I just keep it to 3, please.
I sure will.
If you could, please.
Absolutely.
Name and address, please, for the record.
My name is Christina Prococo, and I live at 637 King Street. So obviously this is not the first time that we've talked about this at the planning board. Last time I didn't get to properly introduce myself because of nerves. In June of 2022, I had the pleasure of purchasing this property as my first home. My property is directly across the street from the 2 parcels in question. I chose this home because it's a wooded area, and despite the traffic that's on King Street, I do have a valued sense of privacy right now. Obviously, the acquisition of this parcel across from mine and the subsequent rezoning has significantly disrupted, or proposition to rezone, has significantly disrupted the tranquility of our neighborhood. So I would just ask that you consider the following points before making your decision to whether to endorse this or not. So rezoning our single-family neighborhood to business is not in line with the character of this neighborhood. It was even acknowledged as spot zoning by several members of the town council. This proposed zoning threatens to exacerbate the already significant traffic congestion near a critical fire station and calls into question the rationale behind demolishing a fully functional home when alternative development options could harmonize with what's already currently existing. The developer's proposition that a new convenience store could mitigate traffic strains logic, as it would draw more vehicles to an already congested area, create additional traffic hurdles, particularly for those that need to make a left turn to return home. Equal tax rates for residential and commercial properties in Franklin nullify the argument that commercial rezoning would financially benefit the town without a clear designated plan for the property. At the heart of the town council meeting was the community's concern over the true intentions behind this rezoning push. The developer's own public records revealing this interest in a fueling station with an accessory convenience store. It's crucial for us, the residents and the neighbors, to consider what the most impactful use of this land would be if it gets rezoned, and that would be a gas station. Obviously, there are hazards that are associated with living near gas stations. Everybody knows this. Mr. Evans did touch on the fact that we created a change.org petition. I did put my heart into that. I would like to say that we did receive 234 signatures for that, and 70% of which were from Franklin and its surrounding towns. Mr. Evans' petition received 62 signatures. In closing here, it's definitely important to consider the broader impact of individual ambitions on the community. Changing the current single-family zoning to business would allow for the possibility of not only something like a gas station, but a variety of high-impact businesses that would create immediate and long-term detriments to this neighborhood. It could substantially diminish the quality of life for all the nearby residents. Maintaining this single-family residential zoning allows for the potential of less intrusive businesses, which is demonstrated currently by the enclave at 656 King Street, which obviously aligns more harmoniously with the neighborhood's current character. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Yeah, you want to start? Anybody else? Comment? Just let me know. If you just want to approach the mic, and I think we've heard enough about a potential gas station. I don't think we need to bring that up if that's in everybody's realm. This is just for a rezone, so if we can just hold back on the gas station, please.
Yes, will do.
Thank you.
Mark Minichelli, 31 Longfellow Drive in Franklin. I'm not a neighbor close by. I don't have any vested personal interest in this. I just have a couple of observations. One, I think in general, zoning changes should have very strong, legitimate reasoning behind it, important reasons to change zoning. People buy their properties with the expectation of certain zones being in place, and I think that making a zoning change is a decision that shouldn't be taken lightly and should have very strong reasons behind it. So I question that now in this case. And when I look at the before and after zoning maps, I have to tell you, it reminds me of congressional redistricting maps, where things are moved around for particular reasons that aren't necessarily legitimate reasons. And so I question the logic of doing this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Could just name and
Hi,
address,
my name is
please.
Sally Grant, and I'm at 660 King Street. I forgot my glasses, and I'm nervous in front of people, so excuse me.
Sorry, you only have 2.5 minutes, so.
So, the rezoning of these parcels would significantly impact the lives and well-being of the local residents, to include the residents at the Enclave, the students at Bright Horizons, and the firefighters at the John Durand Memorial Fire Station. It would dramatically change the character of the area and raise significant concerns on many points. You've already received this, so I think you have those points, and hopefully you've had the time to review them. One of course, is the health and health hazards and quality of life impact. I do really have to quickly say something about it being a gas station, since that was in the proposal. Yesterday was Firefighter Appreciation Day, and one of the things that they did in Boston as part of Firefighter Appreciation Day is to honor the firefighters that have lost their lives due to fire-related cancers. So we know that benzene in gas station emits known carcinogens. I don't know why we would want to impose that next to our firefighters who serve us, as well as the increased traffic that a gas station or any other enterprise would impede on the ability for them to respond. It would also impede upon the entrance to the Enclave, would impede upon the ability to respond to the residents there. And so one of the main things I say is, would this rezoning be beneficial to everyone equally? And I really don't think it is. I don't think it also benefits. To increase the value on one property might bring something in for the town of Franklin, but you'll lose based on the decreased value of all the other properties. You'll lose that tax base. If you have to widen the road, you might be doing a taking by eminent domain. You would lose money based on that. You would also, by rezoning, that could also be considered a regulatory taking, and you could lose money on that. So I think that considering this ahead of time, not rezoning it and then waiting to see and then having to figure all this out, you should consider all those points carefully. Consider the infrastructure, consider what everyone's saying. This is not a not in my backyard. The master plan for the town of Franklin does not designate this area of Franklin for rezoning, but it does designate that we need more residential properties. So why are we taking residential properties away in an area that's already a neighborhood and impacting the residents unfairly? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody? Just approach the mic, and like I said, if you agree with the previous residents on things, just agree with them.
Greg Delaco, 701 King Street. I'm reading from prepared remarks, so I apologize for mentioning the gas station, but
Yeah, just
I'm not
pull the
gonna
gas
change
station,
anything
this
now.
is just for the.
we have heard several citizens passionately present a long list of concrete reasons why a gas station is a bad idea for our neighborhood. And make no mistake, a gas station is the ultimate goal of the owners of the property under consideration this evening. It's difficult to ignore the compelling arguments against such a proposal. The only argument presented in support of this zoning change is that it will provide tax revenue for the town. However, when we compare the negative impact of such a change would impose on the hundreds of people who live in the area, whose health and quality of life would be unalterably compromised, to the modest benefit any tax revenue might provide, we can easily see that such a trade-off is so unequal as to render the whole idea unfair, unwise, and objectionable. Further, if we apply this logic of harm versus benefit to a per person, as opposed to a geographical analysis, the proposal fares even worse. Our neighborhood already does its share to support the town, It hosts an industrial park with numerous businesses who employ a considerable number of people. In addition, there's a large warehouse complex being constructed in the area. So again, we can state with all seriousness and honesty that we've done and continue to do our part for the town of Franklin. I urge you to reject this proposed zoning change for all the reasons presented here by so many sincere and concerned residents. We should not be asked to surrender so much for what will surely only provide a modest benefit to the rest of the town. We are asking our elected officials to protect us from such an ill-conceived and self-serving plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Everybody good? Just name and address.
Hi,
please.
Michaela Duff, 680 King Street. Ian's my husband, Vivian's my daughter. I just want to highlight, look at how many people are here from this street. This is not a Glen Farmer. This is not a Santa Fe burrito right in the center of town, surrounded by other existing gas stations and businesses. This is an actual residential community where tons of people live, and to rezone this area commercial is just, it's insane to me. There is an existing home on the land. So I just want you to see how passionate and how much, like, there are at least 10 houses here saying, like, whoa, like, how could you even be considering this? So thank you guys for taking that into consideration.
Thank you. Anybody else? Questions, comments? Just approach the mic and give. Just name and address, please, first.
Did I understand you correctly that there is nothing proposed to put on those lots for the rezoning?
This is just for rezone right now.
Strictly
Just
rezone?
yeah.
So we rezone it and then,
They'd have to go through the whole process to come through planning board, zoning if need be.
so we sign the check and they'll fill in the amount?
Take offense to that, but yeah.
All right. Well, a couple of quick issues.
Your name again?
I'm sorry, Mike Bassignani, Forest Street.
Thank you.
The traffic issue currently, as it exists, not what it might be. We have an influx coming all the way up from Washington Street through King Street. On Forest Street, the cars are backed up on my street as far as the eye can see down. Every one of them are Rhode Island plates. They're coming through from Cumberland, from Woonsocket, from everywhere. They even come through the athletic field where they try and jump ahead in the line, and they go through the athletic field, come back out, causing more congestion. I used to leave for work early in the morning. I don't even try it anymore. I'm fortunate I'm self-employed, so I can hang back for that extra cup of coffee and just let it blow through. But for everybody else moving out of there, it's a problem. I don't want to see anything that's going to increase that. And nobody is going to develop that property with the intent to reduce that traffic or to remove some of those obstacles. It just won't happen. It'll only make it worse. But I kind of have a personal experience in another town. I own a considerable amount of property, mostly rental property and residential rental property. I had an experience in the town of Plainville where I bought 2 properties there. And unbeknownst to me, Cumberland Farms bought a vacant lot, just like the one on King Street, and they tore the house down that was next to it, just like they were talking about doing on King Street. They built a 24-hour gas station there, lit up like Logan Airport runway. I own the buildings on either side. We got people coming in there every night, young kids hanging out, especially in the summertime. People want to have their windows open. Radios blasting, hooting and hollering across the parking lot. You call the police, they chase them away. An hour later, they're back again. Litter all over the place. They throw bottles over the fence into my yard. I'm constantly picking up the debris and the litter from there. It's an ongoing problem. But the noise is just unbelievable. I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever been in a situation where they haven't had a good night's sleep for 6 months and what that can do to your emotional well-being and the quality of your life. Okay, and the scenario seems to be that they get the store there, then they go the convenience store method, then they go 24 hours, then they get the liquor license. And whatever they're doing, it's more for business. It's not for the community. Well, they can say that it's a service to the community, but it's for their profit, it's for their benefit, okay? And unfortunately, the people that are making the money on all of this are on a beach in Boca Raton somewhere where most of my people can't afford to go. And,
Well, I do appreciate it.
but they have to deal with it every day. I have to deal with it every day. More importantly, they deal with it night after night, every single night. If I didn't have so much money to invest it, I'd be out of there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Margaret Ranieri, 651 King Street. I would respectfully request your support in keeping the property residential. I agree with all the many comments that have been made by my neighbors. And just a point of clarification, I think we're fixated on the gas station because this gentleman's partner at the town council meeting said he envisioned a Garrett's Family Market. That's a modern style gas station operated by Volta Oil. There's one that was built on 109 by 495 recently, and it holds itself out as a truck stop. But trying to add something new, the zoning that's business diagonally across the street, a large part of that property is encumbered with wetlands and a 325-foot wide power line that forced the construction of that building on that land north, right up next to 495. So it will be somewhat away from the houses along King Street. There's over 3 million square feet of commercial building space and actually both industrial parks. Franklin's very blessed with a huge commercial tax space, the industrial parks, all the development along Route 140. But the commercial activity or the heavy traffic in our neighborhood, including recently an army of brown trucks from the UPS trucking terminal and other large trucks from Grove Street, the industrial land on Grove Street, it does have a rhythm to it that's largely contained to Monday through Friday business hours. It's much quieter in the evening and on the weekends. And a gas station has a lot of exterior activities, whether it be an ATM, a tire pump. They have auto boards for fast food and many, many vendors and frequent fuel deliveries that are very loud process when they're accessing the tanks, clamping down the hoses, dispensing the fuel, and then reversing the process. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. I guess that's it. Anybody in Zoom land? I don't see anybody out there. See anybody in?
No.
Okay. I guess I'll go to the board next. Chris, what are you first?
Jen has her hand up.
Go for it first.
Work
Thank
my
you.
way around.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I expressed in our first meeting late last year, my concerns being traffic coming up over the hill. It's a little bit of a blind curve. And I'm curious, in your proposal, Mr. Evans, you note that this proposal as a business zone will ease traffic. And I would like to hear you explain how you plan to ease traffic by having it being a zoned business.
Sure, I believe it'll ease traffic on the other side of the highway, the Union Street and King Street intersections. You have vehicles that are getting off 495, and you have all the traffic that comes from South Franklin. In order for those people to get fuel or a coffee, go out to eat, whatever it is, they need to go under 4 traffic lights under the highway and go into one of those establishments on the other side of the highway, creating traffic congestion for those residents. And I can tell you those residents, you don't get people here that want to support any change, but I can tell you those residents would welcome a use on the other side of the highway to alleviate some of those cars that are coming over to their side of the highway to go to Dunkin' Donuts or to go to the gas station or go out to dinner or whatever it may be. So that's my philosophy and why it makes sense for traffic. There are no convenience options on this side of the highway. It is directly off the highway. We're certainly not gonna build a single-family home there. It is absolutely not appropriate for a single-family residence. So these arguments that, oh, don't do anything, or we don't want this, or we don't want, they don't, no, people, let's face it, most people don't want anything built there. And that's why it hasn't been, that's why nothing's been built there. It's next to the fire station. I also want to say one thing.
We'll return back to that after. Chris?
Yeah, so I said, yeah, my concern, I guess, is the traffic that's already existing. This does not seem to be relinquishing or mitigating any of that existing traffic concern, possibly, very likely, increasing it. And I have significant concern with just overall traffic safety of any business, even for the residential homes, making a left-hand turn out onto King Street.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah.
Jay? Comments, question, no?
Oh, I'm going next? All right.
You're up.
Okay, I'm up. Do I get a 3-minute time limit? So, yeah. All right, so, I'm kind of looking at this from like a map, right? And our zoning table, and I'm trying to be, it's like cut and dry. Here's what's on the map, here's what's on the zoning table, and here's what's on the uses, right? And let me bounce back to this thing here. You know, I think that we're kind of potentially missing the opportunity to do something that satisfies kind of everyone here, and that's application of a different zoning. We can get into that in a second. But looking at just the by right uses in business, we're not going to go into a special permit because that obviously it's not a by right use. We can turn it on a special permit. So in business, by right, you have a bank, an office, a funeral home, indoor recreation, health club, a library, a lodge, a contractor's yard, a manufacturing institution, a bar or restaurant, or a retail institution of off-site manufactured goods. Okay, so that's just the by right stuff. There's a ton more things that are covered by special permit that we're not going to get into tonight. So, you know, looking at some of those things, I'm not sure that necessarily I would want a contractor's yard and feel that's appropriate in the area. But, like I said, I think we're kind of missing potentially an opportunity, and this is one that's actually going off an idea that you said. It's a bit of a drive for people on that side of town to get something to eat or have a coffee. And I think we've actually addressed that with some zoning that only seems to be used in one other area in town, and that's the rural business zoning, right? So things that are allowed there. An agricultural center, a garden center, an art gallery, a country store, which you can serve food and coffee at, a home office, an artisanal craft center or maker, and a single-family home, which you said didn't really work there. But you can A&R their lot. I would assume that's an easy A&R. And some of these other uses might be fantastic there. So it just seems like a lot to put some of that there. You know, just the things that are by right. And then, you know, you kind of get into some of the spot zoning concerns. I understand the parcel to the nearest part of King Street is owned by the town, but still, like that, then that creates that as kind of an island. So that would, I guess that's kind of more of just like my open pontification on the whole subject, is maybe we're missing the opportunity to, you know, not have some of the greater facilities that can be put in here, but not also hamstring your development of the property. So that's kind of just my thoughts.
Comment on?
Yeah, you go ahead, please. That's just my.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff it sounds nice, but it's not realistic in terms of developing it. The site costs alone to develop that site, to put in 90% of the usages you mentioned are just unrealistic stuff that doesn't exist anymore because of site costs and construction costs. So, including a house there. You're not going to build a house there and spend the money to build a house because you're not going to be able to sell the house for more than you put into it, being next to the fire station and surrounded by a senior living with a warehouse across the street. So.
Yeah, and I kind of considered that too, and that's when I was thinking, like, you know, is there a residential district that serves us a little bit better that would allow for multifamily? Because then, as you said, single family doesn't work there, but maybe multifamily does. And then that's another way that could potentially bridge the gap, right? So we're still in a residential area, we're still getting multifamily. I'm sure you can still develop that and make some money doing such, and it's not gonna be limiting. But then, you know, we don't have a single family home there. So I'm just attempting to find a way to make it, because the property should be developed in some way, shape, or form that's usable. And a single family home isn't gonna work there. But some of these by right uses aren't gonna either. So massaging this in a different way, I think, might be the best outcome. And that, you know,
I
just offering.
I appreciate those comments. I'd rather, you know, it's very discouraging when you hear flat out no, but I'm here to work with people and, you know, unfortunately, the zoning in town is, some of the zoning is antiquated in terms of, coverage, impervious coverage. Like, there's some certain by right uses you can do there now that are, like an office or something like that, but you can only cover 30% of the lot, so it doesn't make it viable.
Yeah, so I mean, like right
So-
off the bat, like general resident, I was looking at the general residential 5. I mean, then you start, I think anything over in this area might be touching spot zoning to some degree, but I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not gonna sit here and pontificate on that. But then you could put multifamily there, and then you're right next to the highway, that eliminates a lot of the traffic concerns in my mind right off the bat for putting multifamily up that you hear all the time, so I think a lot of those arguments could be quieted there, and, I mean, you've seen that we've approved a lot of things that are higher in density lately, so, for housing, so I would encourage you to consider that as an option.
Good.
Yeah, that's all I've got. I'll stop being repetitive at this point.
No, okay.
Okay. I have a lot to say here. I'm a planner by trade. That's my job. That's what I'm educated in. I'm a planner. So you're saying the planning board job is to plan, and I believe we are. We're planning in good effort for the residents of this community, not just this neighborhood. For me, this, as my 2 board members have already said, it doesn't make sense. And you're telling us we can't look at it by uses? That's how you zone. What is an appropriate use for the area that it's abutting? What is the appropriate use for the property? I can't make a decision on whether something should be rezoned if I'm not allowed to say anything about what uses could be there. Because there's some impactful uses, just as Jay just said. So, just putting that out there. I think that's the big one I have, so many of them here. You talk about a potential $100,000 a year in property tax revenues, but we're not allowed to potentially talk about uses, but you're allowed to potentially indicate fuel sales, meal tax, and sales tax will come to us. So I'm gonna balance that with saying, to me, that's not enough to say this is appropriate for a rezone. It's not. It's not the right spot. It really isn't. This comment is for the town council. You sent this back to us after we gave you an answer. We told you we weren't in favor of it. Realizing there was only Jen, the chair, and I could vote at the time, they were still available and gave us comments. They still provided comments. We said no. So for me, it's kind of a little bit, you didn't get what you want, so you send it back, you ask the planning board to reconsider, because now you have more members to vote. Take our first answer. It was no. You wouldn't send this back if we all voted yes and give these 2 members an opportunity to vote, because you got what you wanted the first time. So in good conscience, this isn't right, and I hope the town council realizes when this gets sent back to you, whatever this answer is you accept our answer and you go with it. And this is not a case of not in my backyard. There's legitimate reasons why this property shouldn't be rezoned to what you're asking for. Legitimate reasons. It's not the best use for this property. It really isn't. It's for your benefit.
What
You're
is?
indicating, let's talk about
What
what
is
Jay
the
said.
best
I think,
Talk about what Jay
personally, if
said.
you want my input, I
Yeah.
think multifamily would excel
Yeah.
there, and I
No.
think you could really put a good product in.
I appreciate it, sir.
But you're saying that you can't build the things that are in other zones. That's not our problem, okay? You paid too much for your property, that's your problem. Develop it with something that makes sense,
What?
okay? We're talking about it.
You just told me you're a planner. What would you build there?
Exactly what Jay said.
well,
Let's look
No,
at it
what would you,
different.
what would you build? I
It's up
don't,
to the
I know what
owners.
Jay said. I wanna know what you
I
would
think
build.
Beth's agreeing with my opinion on it.
Yeah.
I can't build I can't build a multifamily.
But that's not my
But
problem.
if we would have, I think that,
Hold on. Somebody's financial situation has nothing to do with us. This is about
Right.
planning.
yeah.
Whether you bought it for $50 or $500,000, doesn't matter to us.
I understand.
It's about what's gonna go there potentially. That's it. So we're gonna let Beth finish.
I don't remember what I was saying, sorry. I was saying something along the lines of, it's not a not in your backyard syndrome. It really isn't. And to the people out there that I hear, you can't control development, here's a perfect opportunity for you to not feel guilty about saying no to this zoning proposal. This is when you can control it. You can say, this is inappropriate. There's a gentleman out there that said legitimate reasons. Use logic. Agree.
If you're a planner, then your job is to plan in the best interest of the town of
Yes,
Franklin.
and this is not in the best interest in the town of Franklin, in my opinion. There you go.
You're absolutely wrong about, you're absolutely wrong about it.
I don't have to take
It-
that.
it-
That's fine. Thank you.
No.
Thank you. I'm
We're
not
gonna
wrong.
continue on with the board.
She has not, Mr. Chairman, she has not answered my question.
I did answer your question, and I don't have to, okay? I told you my opinion. I agree with Jay, I agree with Chris over here, and that's my
So
opinion.
your preference is for weeds to grow there for the next 20 years, as I understand it.
No, it's not. Did you hear what he said?
I don't care what Mr. Mello said, I appreciate his comments.
Alright,
You have not given me
let's
any,
move on.
any
we
substantial
need to-
comments,
All right,
unfortunately.
we're gonna
some
move
decaf
on to
for
the
a
rest of the
second.
board. Everybody hold comment. Jen?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I also echo my fellow board members' sentiments. I'm an architect by profession, and when we look at the design of a house, we don't look at it from an aerial perspective to understand how it is experienced. I firmly believe you cannot look at a zoning map and look what's nearby and say something could be this just because there's some blue across the street, or there's some industrial behind you, or there's a senior living up on the hill. You have to look at parcel by parcel what the experience is on the street, what the approach is by vehicle, what the approach is by pedestrians, and it is very much so residential in these two particular parcels, with what is across the street, with buffers to the transition, clear transition to the fire station and to Constitution Boulevard and Upper Union on the other side, and residential scale heading west. So I expressed this back in, what was it, November? And my sentiment has not changed. You know, and I will leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also echo Chris and Jay and Jen and Beth's reasonings for it. I think looking at the pros and cons, in my opinion, it would be detrimental to the public welfare of that residential area. So not to belabor the topic, I concur with my other four board members.
Okay, thank you. I can't say much more than what the rest of the board members have had said. Traffic, the right piece for the right property, the right building. The traffic up there is a killer already as we speak, and I don't think this is gonna make it any better, to tell you the truth, so. Make a motion, close the hearing.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment?
No, you've already had your time.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor to close?
Aye.
Comment, motion?
Make a motion not to recommend the zone change at King Street to town council.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries.
How are the Bruins doing? Anyone know? Comic relief.
Yeah, if that came down to
Did he
an actual
really?
vote, I was gonna abstain. Because if that came down to a
Ryan was
vote, I
right
was
there,
gonna
so
abstain
hopefully
and
that's
protest the town council, but they can hear that. Respect the decision.
Jay, I thought you gave some good alternatives.
Yeah, I did.
I'm trying,
Happy to work with it.
I'm trying to be the king of compromise. It's, you gotta meet people, because you gotta meet people in the middle.
And without a proposal, you're opening yourself up to all of them.
I just want by right, I just, you know,
By right,
if it's,
exactly, by right.
by right is it. It's not fair to look at special permits.
Take a 2-minute break?
Yeah.
Take a 2-minute break?
Okay.
Spicy.
which would be an initial public hearing for 240 East Central Street. Make a motion to waive the reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
If I could go to Amy with Department of Planning, please, first.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we've, originally we actually had an application that, only included 240 East Central Street. They withdrew that at the last, 2 meetings ago. Now we're in front of us with 240 East Central and 9 Lewis Street, both in the Commercial 1 zoning district. They're proposing to construct 14 new townhomes, with a commercial space. We have letters submitted from Beta, Fire, and I think Mike has his comments as well. The commercial space seemed a little bit small. We might want to look at increasing, which we've done with some of the other projects that have come in front of us in that same zone. In the Commercial 1 zoning district has this requirement to provide the commercial space. The applicant has filed a design review, and the renderings are included in the packet. I believe they've been continued, so they don't have their approval yet. Landscaping plan should also include additional plantings. I didn't feel there was a lot of plantings on the site. I do think that part of the plan, I know that you see the back of the building and then you see the front on Lewis Street. We did receive a letter today, a comment letter today about possibly trying to put the garages all through the middle of the site and moving some of the houses, townhouses straight towards Lewis Street. There was a zoning question as well about the encroachment onto the residential property. I did talk to the building commissioner, and he did indicate that it would be addressed tonight by the applicant. Thank you.
Okay. If you want to, guys, before I go to anybody, if you want to introduce yourselves and give us a brief overview of the project, please.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Richard Cornetta. I am the applicant's attorney. Joining me is Carlos Ferreira. He is our consulting engineer of MP Design out of Southborough. And what I thought I would do tonight is, just being an initial public hearing, is to just introduce the board to the project and try to explain, because I think some of the renderings may be a bit confusing, so I could maybe illustrate a bit for you as to the layout for the site. Thank you, Amy, for the introduction. It is. Would it be better if I stood up by the board? I don't know.
Do whatever suits you needs.
Can you see
Fine.
this okay? I apologize. We've got kind of a limited easel here. Try to turn this
As long as he can zoom into it so people can see.
Sure. So as Amy indicated, we're dealing with two parcels of property. One is on 240 East Central Street, and the other is 9 Lewis Street. This, to situate the board, we are looking at East Central Street at the top.
Rich, could you do me one favor? Can you turn that a little bit so some of the audience can see it? I think we can, but I think they're kind of looking. We don't have a screen behind us for them to see. And we can see it on the TV.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's good, just so they can get their eye on it.
Sure.
Thank you.
So just to illustrate where East Central Street is at the top here, Lewis Street would be here. And so we're dealing with two parcels of land, both located in the Commercial 1 zoning district. We're also located wholly within the Water Resource District as well. There are no wetlands present at the site. The entire site, the square footage is about 34,500 square feet combined. And it is the intention of the applicant. The applicant, I should mention, owns both parcels in separate LLCs. And should the board be so inclined to approve this project going forward, prior to endorsement, we would do an 81X plan to consolidate the two parcels together. So we are viewing this as one site plan with the frontage at least oriented toward East Central Street. So talking a little bit about the proposal, we're dealing with two buildings here. Building A would be the one that runs along Lewis Street. Building B would be the one that runs along the perimeter site. I should mention, This site, I think everyone's familiar with it, but we've got the Rockman Trust here across the street. We've got a commercial use here across from Lewis Street. And on the western boundary, we have a site that is under development. This applicant is doing a 33-unit multifamily on this site here. So, if I might just refer to my notes. So as we see the linear format, we have a singular driveway that enters along East Central Street and exits the site. I'll stand up again. And exits the site here on Lewis. So it's a restricted access drive, so that the cars will come in, entering on East Central, and exiting on Lewis to avoid any awkward traffic movements onto East Central Street. As mentioned, there are 14 residential units and a single commercial unit. So in Building A, we have 6 units that will be residential. There will be 3-bedroom units. It will be 3 stories in height. It will not exceed the 40-foot height requirement that the town has in their bylaw. Building B will have 8 residential 3-bedroom units, and there will be, as you mentioned, a commercial unit on the front of the site as it orients with East Central Street. I might just shift to this if I could for the moment, just to give you kind of an architectural rendering of the building. As I said, it's 3 stories. The first story is going to be garages, so each townhome will have a two-car garage underneath. The second story would be a living space. Third story would be the living space, the bedrooms. Amy mentioned there was an issue with regard to possibly the setback. I think what you were referring to is the southern boundaries here as it meets the residential property to the south. This building, the closest building, is 15 feet from that perimeter. I think the zoning issue is because this property is located on 2 East Central and Lewis Street, it's a question as to whether it's a corner lot. And with a corner lot, the question becomes, well, what is our frontage here? Because if you look at the Lewis Street property, which is Building A, it is oriented toward Lewis Street because these driveways and their garages will face Lewis. And the building will kind of back up to its sister building, which is Building A, which is really oriented toward the backs of that building. So as the cars come in, they will enter the garages here, and those that live on this building here would most likely use Lewis Street, enter the driveways there, and use the garages underneath on Lewis. So the issue becomes, do we have 2 fronts here where if we do, and it orients with this southerly boundary where there's a residential home here, do we need to go to 20 feet rather than 15 is the issue. And so we've discussed it, and Carlos believes that we can shrink the building size, take that and pick up that extra 5 feet if the board's so inclined and believes that that should be interpreted as a corner lot. It's not truly a corner lot because there is a residential property here that will remain, but it does, and I can certainly understand the planning department and Gus's opinion as to how this orients with the two streets. But I think we can solve that issue. Dimensionally, the buildings fit under your current bylaw. As you'll see in the zoning table, the general size of the square footage of the 2 lots is consolidated, or about 34,500 square feet. And under the commercial 1 zone, you cannot exceed 2,250 square feet per the number of units. And so we fit within that requirement. We fit within the height requirement. The parking that is being provided typically in this particular zone, you like to see your bylaw requires 1.5 parking spaces per unit. We are providing 2 spaces per unit. They are the internal garage spaces for each unit, which would total of the the residential units, you're talking about 28 parking spaces. There are 3 parking spaces on the northern side of the lot as it orients with East Central Street that would serve the commercial use, which includes also a handicap use or space here as well, which also could serve as visitor parking as well. As far as the utilities, the project is to be serviced by domestic sewer, your municipal sewer, municipal water, gas, electric, they're all available here. There is an issue in some of the comments from Beta, which we just got, so we obviously haven't had a chance to have our engineer go through that, but we plan to do that, and on a future meeting, we will address that with you, hopefully resolving all of those issues. But one of the issues that was presented was with regard to, I believe there's a sewer easement down in the southern portion of the property, and we intend to work with Mike's office to make sure that that is not an issue going forward. We don't want to obviously impair the town's ability to access that easement area. Oh, I should mention, one of the more important features is one of the units will be affordable. One of the units will be dedicated in perpetuity as an affordable unit, which would mean that unit would be available to households earning up to 80% of the average median income. As I say, it would be in perpetuity, which it would remain as long as the project is in existence. As far as the type of project and type of homes, I know it's not something that is necessarily within your purview, whether it would be a rental project or an ownership project, but the proposal of this applicant at this point is that these would be townhomes that would be governed under a Chapter 183A condominium relationship. So yes, all the common areas would be managed by the association that's set up under Massachusetts law as a condominium. I believe the commercial unit would also be a party to that, along with the residential units. I should mention a little bit about the procedural history where we've been. On April 9th, we did appear before the Design Review Commission, and the matter was continued. They did review the architectural elevations, but I believe because they meet on Zoom, there was an issue with regard to the construction materials, which we intend to provide to them so that they can review those materials. Hopefully, on a future meeting, we will come back with their endorsement as well. There are 2 existing homes on these 2 lots. They're single-family homes with detached garages. They're rather old, so we have gone through the process of notifying the historical commission as well as the building commissioner. And so we believe we've addressed the historical nature of those. There was nothing of significance that came from those processes, but we did, just to let the board know that we did identify that, and we have run that to ground as well. So as I mentioned, we're not seeking any waivers from the board. We believe that this project has been designed according to the bylaw as it's been recently amended to try to create multifamily homes, housing in this commercial 1 district. But we are certainly interested to hear your comments about the project. But I did want to point out to you at the outset that we are not seeking any waivers. I know oftentimes I'm here trying to convince you that we need to fit this or cut the corner here in order to make a project work, and I am pleased to indicate right from the start that we believe we've satisfied all of those, at least those dimensional requirements that you have in your bylaw to make sure a project like this would fit. We recognize that the area is quite commercial. We understand that there is and has been a number of discussions, being a party to other projects in this area about traffic, and certainly I know that the neighboring project was before you not too long ago in time, and we did have, I believe, a traffic study that was, a full traffic study that was completed by Vanessa and Associates, one of the preeminent traffic consultants in the Commonwealth. We certainly can, if the board is so inclined, we could speak with Jeffrey Dirk, the party we've dealt with in the past, and see if maybe he could generate a letter of some kind that would just at least narrate as to the board would be understanding as to the potential impacts of something like this. I'm not a traffic engineer, but I've been doing this for a little while, and I'm looking at 14 residential units in a very small commercial space. I'm gonna take a leap here and say I don't think that this project in and of itself is going to have a significant traffic impact to the community that the board is going to be overly concerned with, but I'll leave that to you. I presume when you review your zoning bylaws and your dimensional requirements, you take a lot of that into consideration. So when a project like this comes forward and it does meet all of the dimensional requirements that you set forth in the bylaw, the presumption is the area can handle it from a traffic standpoint. But as I say, we're more than willing to work with the board if there is a concern there that we can maybe get an updated letter that would somehow narrate how that previous traffic study might, or this project might fit in with that. So with that said, Carlos is here, I'm here. We'd certainly like to entertain any questions you have. We understand that Beta has reviewed the project and there are a number of comments that we haven't had an opportunity to speak to, but I figured this would be an opportunity to give you the first look at the project tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I will go to Matt from Beta, if you want to give us a quick preview of what you've seen, Matt, please.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as part of the applicant's presentation, they did talk on a number of my points already, so I'll try to keep it brief. We did note that the lot is sort of unique in its shape, with the two lots being combined where you have two front yards. So really, we're deferring over to the zoning compliance officer to determine what setbacks are required, particularly on the southerly and the westerly property lines. No lighting plan appeared to be provided or a traffic analysis for the site. Obviously, we defer to the board on the latter whether or not you want to require that. We've asked for some confirmation just to show there's adequate maneuvering space coming out of the garages, as well as other vehicles will be on site, whether it's emergency access or waste collection vehicles. As noted, we were a little concerned with the proposed work that's located within the easement, just to ensure that they are allowed to do that without interfering with the access easements. We did note that there's two drainage structures proposed directly over the sewer line, so that could be concerning for long-term maintenance of the sewer line. This was touched on as well. The project does appear to be subject to inclusionary zoning, so we asked for confirmation that they're in compliance with that. They did mention they're providing an affordable unit. Overall, stormwater looks pretty good. The soils are good out there. They're intended to infiltrate all the water on site. We just note that the test pits only extend about 1.5 feet below the infiltration system bottom, so they could be relatively close to the groundwater. We did note that at the 230 East Central site, they did find groundwater a couple of feet below the system bottom, so they could be in that range. They didn't do any test pits on the infiltration systems over on abutting Lewis Street. Soils are probably good, but they probably just want to confirm that that's not going to be an issue there, make sure they can build it. The infiltration system itself, it's relatively close to the structure located on the 244 East Central Street property. Just want to make sure that the water coming into the ground isn't going to impact that structure. And we also noted that there was a spill, a previous spill on that site. So they want to ensure that there's no possibility of the contamination on the site being pushed off by the infiltration.
Has that been cleaned already?
They have done some coordination through Mass DEP. I think it's been closed, but I don't know the extent of what may or may not remain in the soil. That, you know, wasn't a high point of research. So we've really requested the design team to look into that and see if there's any restrictions or potentials to have impacts from that.
Correct.
Yeah.
All set?
That's it.
Oh,
Yes, sorry, Mr. Chairman.
I'll go to Mike. Mike, DPW, if you could give us a quick overview, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually didn't get a chance to do a full review on this. I just looked at it briefly today. Just a couple of general notes, just to reiterate what Matt said. We did look at the area, the sewer easement in the back, and right now it looks like a couple of drainage structures are right over the line. So I think that might be able to be reworked in that area there, but obviously we don't want anything right on top of our infrastructure. Just a couple of notes, it looks like the plans, they call out for HDPE pipe, Boyd requires RCP for the drainage pipe, and precast curb that was shown, the detail didn't show any reinforcement, so it's just standard comments there. And just a note on the driveway entrance off of East Central Street, that is right at the line between the state highway layout and the town layout. The driveway is within the town's layout portion of that, so I don't believe you'll need anything from Mass DOT, but I'll leave that up to the applicant to determine for sure.
Good, thank you. Well, before I go to the board, I'll go to the audience. Is anybody in the audience have any questions or comments? If you just want to approach the mic and give your name and address again, please.
Yes, hi, Mark Minichelli, 31 Longfellow Drive. I happen to be part of a newly forming group. We call ourselves Ben for Franklin, Building Equitable Neighborhoods for Franklin, and we expect to advocate for projects that add affordable units to the town, add more units to increase the number of available units, to help us manage the cost of living in Franklin for future generations. I just have a couple of comments. I really like seeing this kind of a multi-unit project going up within walking distance of the downtown, within walking distance of the train station. I think it helps. I would love to have seen more than one affordable unit. I'd love to see developer goodwill in the future do more than what's required in terms of affordable units. I think if I understood correctly, the one-way drive that's part of the plan. Seems to me that it would help with reducing the impact on traffic flow. I know that area of Route 140 is already a lot of people concerned about the traffic there. So adding anything to it, of course, creates a problem, but I think the one-way approach seems like it would help manage some of the traffic issues. But just my thoughts, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Anybody in Zoom land? Oh,
Yep.
Is Lawrence?
Hi,
Yeah, you just want to introduce yourself, please?
Jennifer Lawrence. I live at 16 East Central Street, right next to the site. My concern with this proposed 14 townhouses is the safety coming in and out of Lewis Street. And I understand that there's going to be a one-way coming in and one-way coming out. But where does that car go on Lewis Street when it exits onto Lewis? It's going to either take a left and try to get onto East Central, or it's going to go through the neighborhood. And I just want to point out that that intersection where Lewis intercepts East Central is mania. There are accidents there, and there is, I believe, a school bus stop right on that corner for several schools, middle schools, high schools. There's a bus stop right there, and I think adding that, and the beta traffic thing, I don't even want to talk about that, because now we're changing the traffic pattern. So how does that even apply anymore? But that's a whole other story. But I just want to say that, you know, the build is the build, and that intersection is a recipe for disaster. There's got to be a light there or something marked on the road to not block the intersection or something, or speed bumps down Lewis and Crocker, because they're animals. They just cut through, and people trying to take a left onto East Central from Lewis Street, it's horrible. So that's all I have to say.
Good, thank you. Okay, nobody else has any questions or comments, I'll go to the board. Mark, are you a direct body? Are you a direct body for this piece?
No, I am not.
Any comment, question?
I have a couple. First, my concern would be, well, let's back up. I appreciate the conceptual drawings. I'm a visual person, so I need to see that type of visual aspect to it. Also, you know, the one affordable housing unit is a plus also. But I do have a couple of concerns. The Lewis Street profile, that faces Lewis Street, that neighborhood consists of mostly of two-story buildings, ranches, Cape Cod style homes. It's really not consistent with the way the neighborhood looks, the character of the neighborhood. My second concern would be Building B, and kind of touched on it, but the back corner of that Building B is just over 6 feet off the lot line. Now, is that something that we have to go before the zoning board is for that? Is that?
So, well, from my understanding, the applicant tonight was asking about it being a corner lot. It's up to the board. I don't believe it's a corner lot. I do believe that they'd have to make a decision to stay the 20 feet off, or it would be a variance to.
Are you talking about the back?
The back.
Setback?
Yeah.
I think he's talking about the back.
Yeah,
yard
well,
setback.
The 6 feet.
Mr. Canetta said that they were looking at Lewis Street being the front, so that would be the rear, correct?
Well, no, if I could just be clear, I was just, when I was saying the front, we consider the front of the project to be on East Central, the entrance of the drive.
So now that, the west side would be considered the side yard then? The
Yes.
side.
Yes.
10 feet?
So that's required 10 feet?
Well, only on one side. If you look at the dimensional requirements, the 10-foot setback is on one side for a commercial one.
Right, the subnote. So this really, a lot is hinging on the consideration for how this, whether it's a corner lot or. Yeah.
You know, with.
We're not gonna figure that out tonight, 'cause
Right.
we're gonna defer to the town attorney.
I know a lot of those lots back in that neighborhood are non-conforming, and if you would need to put a shed a specific size, you'd have to be 10 feet off the lot line.
Correct.
A shed's a shed, but this is 3 stories, so that would be a concern of mine. The commercial space, I agree that it should be larger. In my opinion, having the one commercial space does not encourage the type of businesses that commercial one is looking for. It doesn't encourage, I mean, if you have a coffee shop or a hair salon, or the owners of that particular unit, or they park there, so without any uptown, you have off-street parking and public parking. In this area, there isn't any off-street parking, so I would have a concern with that. I think Beta did mention on the driveway, it's really only 20 feet wide. I think maneuvering aisle, you need a wider base, because part of the area which is not included in the 20 feet is looks like a sidewalk, which is flush with by the drawing, is flush with the asphalt. So I don't know if we want to encourage people to back over the sidewalk. That would be another one I noticed, dumpster location. Do we have any?
I should have mentioned that. We're going to have a private trash removal, much like the town does with the buckets, and, you know, so they, you know, through the condo association, they will have to orchestrate that so that and we'll demonstrate that a trash truck would be able to navigate this driveway as it comes in, collect the garbage and take it off-site.
Even, I don't know, that leads to another one, is in the one-way on Building A, they have the balconies facing the one-way. They extend 2 feet, but.
They're on the second story.
They are over the
But they're
sidewalk.
only, yeah, but how would that, 10 feet?
They are over the sidewalk, they don't encroach into the driveway.
But if the sidewalk, knowing how people drive, if the sidewalk is flush with the asphalt, it could be an overhead issue, that would be me.
There's curbing on the sidewalk, there's no intention for the sidewalk to be flush with the driveway.
Okay.
And just, if I might, Mr. Chairman, to address the point about the width of the roadway. It is a one-way. roadway. And so your typical, you know, as Mr. Maglio could probably weigh in on this, you know, your typical width, roadway width is somewhere between, you know, 40, 56 feet. We're not having cars that are conflicting going in two different directions. We're having them coming from one direction and passing. And we believe the 20-foot width is more than adequate, and we can certainly demonstrate traffic movements of the largest vehicles that will serve this property to show the board that this will work.
All right. Okay, thank you for that. So if we have moving vans in there, people are gonna be able to get around the moving vans? Is that on moving day, or when people vacate those later?
Well, it's like any residential neighborhood, you know, it's, you know, as much as you wanna try to police every contingency, you know, it is going to be a residential neighborhood, and so if the people do come in on moving day, they're going to have to at least accommodate each other as good neighbors to try to make sure that that will work.
I think that pretty much covers it. Thank you for
Thank you.
answering my questions. Thank you.
All set?
Yep.
Good. Jen?
I appreciate the scale of this and the density and the fact that you came in not asking for any waivers, and basically meaning not trying to do too much on one site. I actually think architecturally it is a better attempt at trying to bridge between commercial and residential. I'm a little confused. The elevations that were submitted are, something's wrong with the viewports. Things are half off the page, the actual architectural elevations on one of the documents that we got. But, you know, so I generally appreciate this project overall. I did have a question. The end of the building on Lewis Street that's facing East Central is completely solid. And I would like to see more, at least in the renderings that we got, I would like to see more, yeah, yes, that guy. Yep. I would like to see that treated like a fourth facade. I mean, we don't know what's gonna happen long-term with that property on that corner lot. And I would like it to have windows or, you know, some sort of character. Right now it just feels like a party wall, like almost like a building was demolished there 50 years ago and it was just left like you see in old buildings in Boston or something. So that's relatively minor. I did find Mr. Carlucci, a resident, submitted a letter suggesting flipping the building on Lewis Street so that basically there's a shared alley, if you will, or back of house. So all the garages are facing, and I understand that that would encroach upon the required setback depending on how you interpret the site. However, the existing house is already non-conforming, right? So potentially could still at least be within the, you know, existing character of that lot, but like across the street is a commercial building that is essentially right up against the sidewalk at some parts too, or very close to it. So I'd be interested to see if there could be improvement with getting sort of all those garage doors off of Lewis Street and getting sort of all that vehicular activity on the backside of the buildings rather than cars backing in and out off of Lewis Street, which is, you know, heavier in terms of traffic. So for what it's worth, I think that might have some merit despite a variance potentially being required. That's all. And landscaping. Would like to see more landscaping. Thank you.
What question to
Yeah.
your regard, so like if we did that, which was like one of the ideas that we had originally, but we need to meet the front setback on Lewis, which is 20 feet.
That's what I'm saying. It might be worth.
That if we, because to do that conflict in here on a 20-foot driveway will be hard, and then we have a sidewalk in here, or we need to get more space.
Yeah, I'm saying it might be worth pursuing a variance for the safety of the site and not having all those cars exiting on and off of Lewis Street backing up, instead getting a variance to allow for less of a setback.
I myself like that idea, it's just that we didn't want to ask.
Sure, and I appreciate that.
It will give like the people like a backyard per se, on this. Because what we had to do is that when we try to arrange, we try to create a building that had like two fronts. So like, you know, like we have like one look that is the look that you have like on Lewis Street in here. But then, because I mean, when you're actually driving on East Central, you only see like this wall. So we try to create something that actually will have like a nice looking view of the building on this side also. So that's like the balconies and all that on this end of the building here. But I mean, it will work. I mean, we can easily flip the building here, then we'll have balconies into Lewis.
I think it might just make for a safer approach to the site overall, personally, just having all the vehicles concentrated between the buildings personally, but that's just my
Mr.
opinion.
Chairman, if I might answer that. We're also, we had discussed this very topic, and one of the issues that we have, and Carlos alluded to it, is we tried to create a sidewalk within the property so that the residents would be able to safely navigate, you know, north and south of the site, either out to Lewis or onto East Central Street to match the existing sidewalks that are there. We're trying to avoid a conflict situation. We realize it's a residential neighborhood, so it's not, the incidence and the probability of conflict is not that great, but still, when you have two sets of garages that are facing each other, and you have cars, that the potential that they could be coming out and accessing the same 20-foot stretch, and also having the sidewalk with all those breaks in it for each driveway, we just felt that this design worked better. We can certainly appreciate Jen's comments, and I absolutely, you know, with Building A, the north facade, we definitely could put some attention on that, as you mentioned. But I think to flip those buildings and reallocate them to look at the other facade, you're looking at essentially the back of that building, and we're trying to, as best we could, replicate the Lewis Street residential neighborhood where you have the homes, the driveways accessing Lewis. So it's very consistent with what is already there. So that was our thought process, you know, but we certainly appreciate the input.
Good, thank you. Good?
May I just build upon Jen's
Yeah,
comment?
yeah.
Do you have a copy of Carlucci's letter? I think he submitted it for design review.
I've seen it, I don't have it in
We'll
front of me.
submit it for record, though.
Yeah.
I would, not always a big fan of variances, but I think in this particular, as I'm sure you know, in this particular instance, I do think it would create a better project if you did try to seek one to move the building out. I think not only for, you know, the driveways that are going to be backing in and out on Lewis Street as it's currently shown. I think that's going to be a potential issue, especially if you're having all your traffic come one way out into Lewis Street, and now you have more traffic, where I think one of the butters said, where are they gonna go? It's a good question. Are they turning left or right? Good question. And then potentially having a car backing right on into that traffic. Now, I think it's a better design project if you go for a variance, but I understand your comments as well, and I do appreciate the townhome style that you've presented here, and a project that has no waivers, like Jen said. You're starting on a good positive note, in my opinion.
We're trying.
Yeah.
You good?
Keep going.
If you were still going.
No, it's just in response to the sidewalk. You mentioned you're trying to keep a sidewalk going from East Central and, you know, safely. Well, if you flip the building, I don't see why you couldn't bring the sidewalk along the north side of that Lewis Street side building and actually have the sidewalk on Lewis Street, and then also provide an amenity to the neighborhood.
There is
Versus-
no.
No, I know, there's sidewalk across the
no
street.
sidewalk.
Right, but what he's saying is if you flip,
Yeah,
if
no,
you
I know.
flip the building, this sidewalk that's internal to the site, I'm saying,
Try to
why
help
not
out.
just,
Yep. I don't think there's sidewalk on
No,
Lewis
there's
Street.
not
in front of
sidewalk
that
on
building.
there's a sidewalk across the street on the commercial
Across, but then
property.
there's not on this
Yeah.
side.
All right, well, we're not gonna figure it out tonight, but they
No.
can look into it.
That's all.
Okay, Jen, keep going.
Beth.
Excuse me, Beth.
It's all right. I think there was you had mentioned being able to have VAI provide an updated letter or something to that effect. I think I'd like to see, at least to make sure that in that instance, the traffic report does include Lewis Street, Crocker, and those neighborhoods back there, and all the traffic that's going to be either going in or out of that area. And just expanding a bit more on what was previously looked at with the abutting residential property. 'cause I think when we discussed that one, there was some concern that those residential neighborhoods were not included in that traffic study, so just reviewing that and making sure they are. And many comments from Beta, which I agree with. And I think that's all I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
You good?
For now.
For now?
For now.
Okay. Jay, we're going this way right now?
Sure.
Cool. All right. Let's see here. A few things I had were, when we were talking about sidewalks, I looked at the plan. The sidewalks are 4 feet wide. That is not sufficient to meet the American with Disabilities Act. That should be 5 feet. It exceeds 100 feet. So, there's that bit. Let's see. The utilities over the sewer easement are definitely a non-starter for me, because that would be an absolute nightmare to try to work on a block sewer with a catch basin over it, everything that would entail. Let's see, the location of the wheelchair ramp at the south end of the project is just kind of spitting you out into the road, or the driveway. It'd be nice to see that sidewalk continued all the way out onto Lewis Street, a ramp put out directly perpendicular across Lewis Street, and then a ramp kind of installed on the other side, so you had a full, complete wheelchair network there. Along the frontage of the properties on the west side of the property, or the homes on the west side of the property, you're proposing a 3-foot walkway, which doesn't even come close to meeting the Americans with Disabilities Act, and I'm just trying to think about basically walking out of your residence and being spit out into the road.
Which side is that?
West? Is it west?
No, I think it's, the north is at the top, so.
Yeah, north, so that'd be west, yep.
So,
Yeah.
over here?
Yeah, so along the front of those, like the driveway side of those, correct? But is there like a walkway or anything like that, or that nature, or? It said, I believe according to the plan I'm looking at, it says 3 foot.
The walkway for the commercial that ties into the existing sidewalk of the.
No, I'm saying along the interior driveway, right.
Within the
Is
corridor.
is that along the back?
That's
Is that
the
what that
back.
is?
That's about
There's
it.
a walkway there?
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
So is there a walkway here? Is that where
It
that
looks
is?
like it.
Well, we did like that, what was our intention on the driveway in here, was to create like some sort of a paver.
Yeah.
To give like the impression that the person who leaves the house is not like into a driveway. So we were gonna put like a 3-foot wide paver in front of all the entire building, because I mean technically for a one-way, we only need 18 feet, for it, so we were gonna try to do like a wider area, just to give the sense of like a walkway.
That help you, Jay?
No. So,
So in front of
no,
the
no,
building?
yeah, this area right here, see how there's essentially no walkway? Putting a
Yeah.
3-foot strip of paver there is not gonna you're essentially gonna walk out of your door and be in the road. You know what I mean? It'd be nice to see some sort of
He's just
actual
trying- yeah.
frontage established there, more than like 3 feet. Let's see what else I got. I think that's it. Beyond
Okay.
that, I think it's a great use of the driveways. So, that particular portion of Lewis Street, I built that. It's wicked flat. Wicked. So, there's already drainage problems over there. It's already a total pain. And to add driveways that are gonna be pointing down into Lewis Street and then removing all that curb is only gonna exacerbate it. So I also support moving the driveways to the other side. In the concept of a variance, I don't get to approve them, but I am pro variance for this. I think that would give you a better product as well. So just, it was already hard enough to keep the water in the road and not have puddling there, and I think removing that much curb, Mike's gonna get angry calls. So, look out for it.
Yeah, good. Chris?
Jay, can I have my packet back?
No.
I brought a circle. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also echo Mark's concerns. I believe the commercial space is not sufficient for what we're hoping for. I do recognize that creates its own challenges with parking, but I'd love to see some options for greater than 400 square feet.
No, the reason for the 400 is this is the footprint of the first floor. I mean, what we did is the unit is because we didn't have like a thought process for that, I mean, for the use of the space on it, I mean, but we can add like a second floor to this, it would be 800 square feet to it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the building is the entire, you know, the entire height, of the entire building. So we can, I mean, essentially, depending on what is the use, what can we get in here, we can have like a second or third floor to it, it would be like 1,200 square feet.
So that was my second question. On the renderings, the vertical renderings, you show basically 2 glass boxes on top of the commercial space?
Yes.
Is that part of the unit, the townhouse unit, or is that,
It's part of the, no, it's part of like the commercial space.
so it's
Then
400,
second.
400, 400 is
Yes.
what that is characterizing it as?
Yeah.
We're not planning a third floor. We
Yeah,
might
we-
have like a mezzanine
Mezzanine,
on the
just to
second, so
create-
it's a higher if we were to expand the commercial use to the second story. So it would just be 2 stories.
So Chris, just how many total square feet of commercial space are you planning then?
We had proposed 400,
Yep.
just the base footprint on the ground, but we are certainly willing to go and add
900.
double that to 900. And we believe the parking, we still meet the parking requirements in
Yeah,
order
it will
to do
meet
that.
the parking still, per the calculations in the
Yeah.
plans. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
I am not opposed to the flipping. I don't perceive an issue with because of the length of the driveways coming out of the garages, I don't have an issue on Lewis Street. I back into my driveway every day, so I don't have to back out onto the street I live on. So, that would be an amenity for me. The other concern I have, in echoing Ms. Lewis's concerns that she echoed, or that she brought forward, just looking at exploring traffic calming measures on Lewis Street as part of the introduction of more traffic coming down. I do feel that there would be a decent number of folks here who would avoid East Central Street if they could and cut back through those neighborhoods. So looking at potentially assisting or working with the town on options to provide mitigation for the increased traffic, slowing vehicular traffic, whether it be medians or humps or whatnot, something like that to just kind of help alleviate some of those vehicles that would come back in. Otherwise, I echo my board members' thoughts. I think it's a good project for it is. The density, to Jen's point, is not overbearing, which is great. So all in all, I think it's a good project with some tweaking.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
I think Jen, you had a couple more questions?
Can she be Beth tonight?
Excuse me,
Do you
Beth,
want-
again.
Should I
Yeah.
run them down?
Yeah.
Just kidding. One quick question on the back of the property, there's, is it 29 Lewis Street? Did you say that that was 15 feet from that fence?
You're talking about the southern part of the?
Yeah, where the drive wire was there, exiting out.
To the corner of the building, to the property line is 15 feet.
So the only thing that 29 Lewis Street has between them and headlights coming in their windows all the time is 15 feet and a 6-foot PVC fence. Can you work on that one?
I would invite, I think it's Mr. Marchand. We've been in communications with him, and I don't believe he has any objections to this project. Just to, I understand, and it's certainly a valid point, but I think the person that is mostly affected does not have an issue with
Well,
it.
you're gonna be doing more trees anyway, so it could be another spot for it, if need be, right?
Not really.
Well,
They don't have any room on their property to put anything else but the 6-foot fence. And I understand what you're saying, he doesn't
Yeah.
object to it, but he might not always
May
live
not,
there,
so,
so.
yeah, that's all.
Just, if you can do something to look into improving that area, I know PVC fence tends to fall apart very easily. Is there an option for an enforced stockade fence that maybe goes up 8 feet? Wood or something like that might be a better option in this particular instance.
especially when they hit it with the snow.
Yeah,
Gonna
if your
blow it
snow
apart.
storage area is right
Yeah.
there, that's,
Yeah, he's gonna push everything this way,
They're
and he's
gonna-
gonna ram
yeah.
the fence, and he's gonna go that way with
yeah,
it.
they're replacing that thing all the
So,
time.
yeah.
Let's hope not.
Vinyl fence blows over in the wind nowadays.
Yeah.
Good? Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Beth.
You're welcome.
I'll just hit a few points. I think the board hit a lot of them. Did you say every unit was gonna be a 3-bedroom?
Yes.
Okay, that's more traffic. School bus drop-off locations is another point, you're gonna have 3 bedrooms, you're gonna have kids, you're gonna look for something like that. Definitely like to see something with the trash pickup. Snow storage, half your snow storage is on your landscape beds out on Lewis Street, so I don't know what you're gonna do with that, you're gonna kill all your bushes. The alleyway of 20 feet still, I still have reservations with that one. I think that's fairly narrow for a building like that. You get UPS, you get Amazon, you get all the delivery people. They hog the road, what are you gonna do? You know what I mean? So I would, maybe the flip-flop would help, but backing onto Lewis Street, I think is suicidal at this point, where those units are backing out. It's just, it's gonna get ugly for those people to come out. And I guess the second question is, if somebody's coming home from, say, Summer Street, and they get on Crocker Ave, they have to go all the way to the end of Lewis Street, pull a suicide left, and then another suicide left to get back into the site. That's definitely an issue with me. With the one way.
They would just go through.
Would they go to the light and take a right?
If they're coming from Summer Street, why would they go all the way up to like the loop around?
So that
People in
makes-
need.
they don't have to do that.
Well, I'm just making a point, someone's gonna do it.
Left
They're
turn by
gonna do
permit
it.
only?
Yeah, that's why I don't like one ways, for that reason, cause it directs people, and you're dumping that many more people on one spot.
Well, that-
Two-way gives you the opportunity to split the difference sometimes, you know what I mean?
Through
Just
the
a
chair,
thought.
well, to me, that might be a question to the town, is do you prevent left turn out of Lewis Street, and that, whether that's.
Yeah, I don't think you can.
Not as a part of this project, but,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know.
It's
It seems
just,
like there's
just something to
bigger-
look at, cause
bigger
that end
issues.
unit, they're gonna have to loop all the way back around. And they're not gonna wanna sit at the lights at the Vitas and wait 5 cycles of lights, you know? It's like everybody else, they wanna pick the quickest route, cause they're, you know, it's just one of those things, nature of the business, I guess, right? Huh?
They'll go down Hill Avenue, take a right.
Well, they're
into
gonna
190.
zigzag, yeah. Green space, yep, definitely want some more green space, some trees. Commercial space, you touched upon that, like to see at least 1,000 square feet. Maybe, unless you can put some in each building, because the whole purpose of mixed use is to generate business in these particular locations. That's what it was all about, that was the intention. Not just to jam as many units on a lot as we see it. And I think you're pretty aggressive with the amount of units on the lot, so. Kind of it for now. It's just, a lot of people hit a lot of them, but the 3-bedroom units is a good one too, though, but we do appreciate the affordable out of that as well.
Mr. Chairman, if I might just address that 3-bedroom comment. We also looked at this as well, and, you know, I think we have a tendency, because of the square footage of a potential unit or the number of bedrooms, we draw a conclusion that this is going to generate school-aged children for the community. I think there is another way to look at this also. I think what we're seeing and what we've seen in the last 4 years is a transition of people's working habits, and so oftentimes, even though there's a 3rd bedroom, that might operate as a home office or so where someone might work from home. And I think, you know, and I'm certainly not going to be here and say what is appropriate and what is not appropriate for a family with children, but this type of project where it's very urban in design and outlook. There's not a lot of space for, I don't know if kids play outside anymore, but if they do, this really doesn't lend to it. And so I would at least put forth the notion that simply because the units are a particular size or they contain maybe that additional 3rd bedroom doesn't automatically indicate that it's going to generate school-age children. But even if it did do that, I think that my understanding of our current demographics are that that is not, as you know, if we were talking about this 15 years ago, which we did talk quite a bit about it and what projects would generate school-age children, it was a big issue because of the demographics, the demand on the schools. But my understanding is we don't have that same situation anymore. And so, although I
I respect and appreciate the chair's comment. I think there may be another way to look at it, and that it may not necessarily generate the school-age children, but even if it did, I don't think that is necessarily a bad thing either.
No, I'm just making a comment that I'm sure you're gonna get some, because I'm not sure about the cost of the units, but I'm sure they're gonna be cheaper than a residential home. So it's gonna leave the person looking for a piece of property to buy, maybe this, which has 3 bedrooms, which could be an initiative for them to buy it, which therefore leads to kids, that's all.
Okay.
Just wanna make sure we're prepared for
Yep,
it.
yep.
So, everybody,
Mr. Chairman, just on your commercial space, I know you had offered to make it a larger, maybe 2-story type situation. I would be a supporter of that.
Like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, definitely. And like I said, the whole purpose of the mixed use is get business, but yet get some relief for the residential units, because other than that, it's just residential units without commercial space yet. You're not doing any justice by putting 400 square feet in there. It's like the size of my closet. So, thank you. Well,
That's a
I
big
know,
one.
but I'm just making it.
Yeah, can I have
The
your
purpose,
closet?
the purpose of it is to generate
It's like
business.
4 times the size of my bedroom.
And I'll also piggyback on Beth's. I'd rather see 2 stories as opposed to trying to squeeze it into the second building, because I think you run into frontage issues and access, and it becomes a less desirable retail space or
Throwing it
commercial
out
space.
there is an option. that's
Yeah,
all.
for sure.
Okay, so, Beth, Amy.
Wow, you were.
He's a bitch.
Beth sat there one day.
He's using all the right words. It's just-
Some of the women's names, right?
I think,
Yeah, we're dying over here.
it's the heat, right?
Yeah.
I don't, June 3rd, would that work out? We have June 3rd and June 17th.
Already?
Well, how much time, I know, how much?
How about Matt? What about you?
Well,
And Mike, time-wise?
I mean, depends on when they get revised plans.
I think.
How busy you would that work?
Is that the first available? I mean, I don't want to push it to 2 weeks, but I mean, I think, because looking
It
at
won't be-
Beta's.
It won't get done in 2 weeks.
Yeah, but looking at Beta's letter, I think we can make pretty good headway with them. I mean, you know, if it has to be June 3rd, you tell me, you know, that's what it is, but.
Yeah, we're pretty busy, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Go June 3rd, and you'll be able to get that much more wrapped up in the
Okay.
meantime. So, make a motion to continue 240 East Central Street till June 3rd. Do I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
comments.
I mean, we would like to get like a little bit of direction regarding the units. I mean, should we go for that option of like
I
flipping it?
would potentially look at it, yeah.
Well, what would be the implications of that? We're gonna need to go and ask for a variance from the
Yeah,
zoning board?
yeah, I think we need to discuss
Why
that
don't you guys
internally.
figure-
Yeah.
Yeah, discuss it.
Because, I mean, although I can appreciate the request of the board, I know that some of you particularly know what you're asking to go before your former group, and, you know, they're very reasonable, but, you know, it's a variance, and it's something that you need to meet the statutory criteria, and although it may make a better project, that is not going to carry the day for a variance necessarily, so I would just hold that out to you. I
I'm
mean,
sure you'd be okay, knowing our ZBA.
thank you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go grab water.
Can we get a hamburger? I'll be right back.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
gentlemen.
Yeah.
Let's just take a quick 2-minute recess, everybody.
It's not long enough to get cheap.
back, well set? Okay, welcome back, everybody. We'll take our next item of business, which would be a continuation for 6 Forge Parkway. Amy, if I could go to you, Department of Planning, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Guess I'd give enough time.
So Beta's provided the review letter dated April 19th, 2024. Some of these comments were from the April 8th meeting, so I'm just following up on those. The board expressed concerns for the lighting spills onto 4 and 8 Forge Parkway, and requested that there was not any spillage. The board asked about providing for the trucks entering and maneuvering around the site, which they have provided in some diagrams. To provide the retaining wall details, which they've also added to the details on the plan. The special condition that the board also requested that Beta will absorb the construction of the retaining walls. Thank you.
Okay. I'll go to Matt at Beta. Matt, if you could give me a brief overview where we stand with this?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the last letter we submitted was dated April 19th, and we had a few remaining comments on that. Since that time, we actually received some revised documents from the applicant. I believe it was on Thursday afternoon. We haven't had a chance to fully review them, but it does look like they knock out most of those comments, such as the lighting. I think we provided some cross sections for the board's consideration on the view from the main road out there. Two things we did want to discuss were we had some comments on test pits on the site. They have performed quite a few test pits out there, but they have a very large infiltration system on the east portion of the site. They only have 3 test pits in proximity, and actually only 1 test pit is located within it. They did hit groundwater, I think, about 3 feet below the bottom of the system. The other test pit, they had, they weren't able to advance it beyond 6 feet. They do think it's a boulder, but that's their presumption that it's a boulder. And they do have 1 test pit that they went down to, I think, about 15 feet with no issues over there. So although they do have some data, and we don't expect there to be a huge concern with it, we really think the design phase is the time to ensure that they can put this big infiltration system in, and we do recommend getting those test pits done to ensure that they can do it. The other thing that we noted was there is an existing swale on the site. We went out there during a rainstorm. It accepts flow from the adjacent property. The swale varies in cross-section. It gets quite wide in some instances, gets deep in other areas. Although a swale doesn't receive an official treatment credit as part of conveyance, we do note that the proposed conditions of piping all that flow will provide less treatment of the stormwater than it does today. We do recommend they look at something simple, potentially just making that pipe perforated with a stone bed underneath it to at least match what's going on today. But I think those are the 2 main things.
Okay, good, thank you. Go to Mike from DPW. Mike, if you could comment, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our previous letter was also based on the previous submission. We just got the plans the other day also, and we had a number of comments that wasn't really clear if they'd been addressed or not, so I'm trying to go through the plans to verify those, but they did add some of the plans were updated. So looking to just verify they were addressed all those comments previously.
Okay. The applicant,
Yes,
yep. Brian,
I'm here.
If you want to just introduce yourself, please.
sure, thank you. My name is Brian Jones with Allen & Major. We are land surveyors, civil engineers, landscape architects, and we prepared the drawings. With me tonight is John Stevens and Joe Gogan representing the ownership group. And I think that was a pretty good summary from staff. Since our last meeting, we had submitted revised drawings primarily addressing the board's concerns with site sections and truck turnaround. And then shortly thereafter, we got some additional comments from Beta, and we did make revisions and resubmit last week, as Matt had mentioned, and I understand if those comments have not been fully reviewed, but we believe that we've addressed all the concerns, certainly barring the final review from Beta. But I do have some drawings that I could share my screen, and we could run through some of the. Oh, I am disabled from screen sharing. Would it be possible for me to share my screen?
Hold on one sec.
Maxine should give you access to it. Maxine, can you give access?
Oh, I have it now.
Great.
All right. See. So the board had requested truck turning movements. These are the April 18th drawings that we submitted. They do include some adjustments to curbing throughout the site to accommodate the larger tractor trailer. It's the WB67 that's shown here. The WB40 really has no problem moving through the site. It's only the largest of tractor trailers that is tight, but we believe we've made revisions to accommodate the movements throughout the site, and that's part of the drawings that you have in front of you. And then the other comment had to do with site sections, and this is one where we spent a little bit of time. I know there was concern about the view corridor from Route 140, so we gathered some information regarding the grades from Route 140. I have a photo here showing essentially from the highway. The grade drops down. There's a swale there, and that's shown in the cross section. This is exaggerated two times, so it looks deeper or higher. You can see the vehicles are stretched. That's just to help our eye visualize it. But there's a swale. It drops down behind the guardrail and then comes back up into the site. And we've mapped out some of the vegetation, and it's our opinion that the existing vegetation within the highway right-of-way will provide adequate screening for both the truck loading bays and also the building. We've tried to depict that here with this graphic, and happy to take questions from the board on that. Regarding the lighting, there was a concern with light spillage along the west, and we did incorporate some house side shields. There's also different optics that we can use. So we've changed the light fixtures in that location to prevent any light spillage onto the butter. And I think that's generally it. And I'd be open to questions, comments from the board. Happy to go over anything in any of the response letters or wherever you'd like to go.
Okay, good,
Thank you.
Jen first?
Through the chair, thank you for submitting the site section. Do you have any architectural elevations of the north facade and
So
or any like 3D views? You know, what is the materiality? I can appreciate the thought that all the existing vegetation is going to screen the building, but it's a pretty tall building. It is, especially in the winter, going to be visible. These are not necessarily all pine trees or trees that are going to hold their leaves over the winter. The residence inn is pretty visible, especially in the winter. So I would like to see, you know, what I want to make sure is this just not some big, massive kind of blank facade that is pretty dominant on 140. At least if we could break up the facade some way through materiality, create some sort of visual interest, I think it would be helpful. But I guess I would just like to better understand what the expression is, like I said, particularly on the north.
Sure.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to respond or wait till?
Let's go through
take all the comments?
we'll go through the rest of the board first, and then I'll just have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
Sure, thank you. Don't you, all set?
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you again for the truck turning plan, but I also noticed it kind of confirms what we assumed, at least with the bigger trucks. The north-facing parking lot, the truck has to swing into there. The other thing I would notice that you have truck traffic going both ways around the building, so if you were going to the south loading bays, you would have to come through the south area and go to the north loading bays. You would have to go to the north in order to do that. Being a truck driver and not admitting that I don't read signs all that well, would there be signage to indicate which way they need to go to which bays? Because if they go to the wrong side, could potentially have things being run over. That would be my only concern as far as that goes. But how are you gonna move cars in that north parking lot in order to have trucks make that turn, especially with the larger trucks?
Good?
Yep, I'm good.
Okay. Chris?
I still have concerns over the entryway off of Forge Parkway. Just the volume, maybe not volume, but truck traffic / automobile traffic coming out of the hotel. Seeing the turning radii here for these plans, it just gives me a little bit of pause for what that two-way traffic looks like, practically speaking. But aside from that, you know, I had thought of concerns with if there's additional trailers on site, but looking at some of the other industrial buildings that are up there on Forge Parkway, a lot of them also have tight sites. There's not many that have a ton of trailer storage, so there would have to be some coordination between the businesses, which is outside of our purview, but just a thought. But I think the entryway access is still my primary concern.
Okay.
You guys actually said most of what I was gonna say, I'm not gonna repeat it.
Okay, good.
Yep, I agree. I think I have the same comments, just, if you wanna elaborate a bit more on your largest of large trucks that comes in, how you plan on, I think you showed, multiple curb, multiple times, so in order to make that work, I mean, you'll have to do some pretty good redesign of the area there. Yep. Same comments.
Yeah, actually, everybody hit the same one. The main entrance, I concur with Chris. That main entrance makes me nervous for a trailer to try to make that intersection turning in with a vehicle coming out of the hotel. I don't see it happening, not with somebody giving in. And the other point of that aspect would be, I noticed you put a sign, no right turn, going into the lot when you're within the subdivision. I mean, you're in an industrial park. You gotta make it so trailers can get in and out of the site. Because if a gentleman's coming from the opposite side of the site and he can't take a right turn in there, where's he gonna go? He's gonna go down the street and he's gonna try to bang a U-ey on 140 and loop back up and pull in the entrance. I think that whole front entry really has to get looked at. I think that's a serious pinch point. And what really concerns me is the hotel. You have elderly people going in there, you have children, you have a lot of different things in there, and you can't have trailers over the road is to boot. Logging that road and swinging out and making the turn radiuses into those areas of travel lanes. So I think that one's a real sticking point for me right there. I think you're gonna have to do some serious work, possibly take some more of the road in the front, at the front entrance. I'm not sure who owns it, but I think you're gonna have to do some homework there. So that's kind of where I want, and then the two tenants, like we've done in the past, prior to any releases, we wanna just know who the tenants are to make sure it's suitable for the site in terms of traffic. So don't sign any tenants up until you let us know who it is first. That's all I have. So it sounds like you still got some homework to do through Beta, through DPW, and then the board. We could work on that. I'm not sure how much time you're gonna be looking for. Try to work that out, but maybe get back some renderings or something, try to get back to us. And Amy, what are your thoughts?
June 3rd?
June 3rd work for you guys to try to get something squared away?
Yeah, that's fine.
It works.
Yeah, okay. So I'll make a motion to continue Six Forge Parkway till June 3rd. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you. We're getting there, guys. Did you say you want a 10-minute recess? Alright, well, alright, now last item of business would be for initial public hearing for 147 Pond Street. I'm gonna make a motion to, waive the reading. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I guess we'll go to Amy first, if we could, please, with Department of Planning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So 147 Pond Street, also known as the Tri-County Regional High School, they are proposing to build a new high school, similar to what Franklin's done with the construction of their high school, where they will be building it on the existing solar field, which is behind the current high school. So they'll be removing the solar field and they'll be building the new high school and then tearing down the old high school to add parking and playing fields. They are currently in front of Conservation Commission with an NOI, which Beta is reviewing. Beta is reviewing stormwater for us, so kind of in togetherness, Beta's putting together a report for both the commission and for the planning board to review the stormwater report. And that's all the comments at this point, till we get those reports submitted. Beta did provide a report. They have done their kind of preliminary report already on the project for stormwater.
Okay. You know what, before I go to Beta, I'll just, if I go to the applicant, if you could just introduce yourself and give us an overview of the project, please.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Steve Powers. I'm the civil engineer for the project. We're with Semiotis Consultants. Behind me, we have several people from the project team to cover a lot of the areas that we would cover as far as the planning board approval process. We have Karen McGuire, superintendent. Trip Elmore is the OPM, the owner's project manager for the project. David Warner from Warner Larson is the landscape architect. Brian Mushnick is from the school building committee. Vladimir Lubeski is the architect for the project. And then finally, we do have a construction manager on board, Steve Johnson. He's from Consigli. So we did put together a presentation for the project. I do have someone that's going to hopefully share it remotely. Jeff Pilot, he is the project engineer, project manager along with me from the same firm.
Good evening to the board. Can I get access to host and share?
Yeah.
Let me know if you can see that.
Yep.
So
Yes.
is that on your screen?
Mhm.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay.
Excellent.
So this is Trip Elmore. He's the owner's project manager. We figured we'd give you a little bit of a history of the project, how we got to where we are now with the submittal. So Jeff, could you go to slide number 4, please?
So I don't, excuse me, I don't know whether everybody can hear me well enough. I've got a bit of a voice, so we'll see if it works. What I wanted to just do is introduce where did we start, where we headed, and give you a quick overview and not go heavily into detail. You can ask me questions if you like. We started back in 2019 when the school went to the state through the MSBA program, which is very similar to your high school project. So we're following exactly the same formula that the state requires all grant-funded projects to follow. We are now at the design stage, which is module number 6. but they've gone through the steps of forming the team, gone through the steps of evaluating the educational program of the building, what is the need of the building, therefore driving the square footage of the building, therefore driving our decision on what kind of design to put together, which Vladimir will talk about. We then perfect that, we put a number on it, and we go to the voters. And you may have recalled that going to the voters and it passing the vote last October. So now we're in the process, that would kick us into the design mode, where we go through design development, and then we start construction documents, and then we bid the project as a whole, which would be next spring, excuse me. In the meantime, we will start early enabling packages, which would start this summer, where we would get things that enable the project to get a jump forward, as in getting the road parking lots expanded so that we have temporary access, and we have parking that we would be taking out of play in the construction of the building. So we have some enabling stuff that we'd start this summer, and just to capitalize on the good weather. I mean, you don't do site work in the winter very successfully. So, so we've really looked deeply into what does it take to most effectively, cost effectively deliver various segments of this building. You can see at the very end that in the fall of 27, the school will occupy, and then another year later, the old building would come down and the rest of the parking lots would be improved. And again, it's timing for when you put plantings in the ground and things like that. That would be, you know, the May, June, maybe into July. Grass doesn't like to grow in July. So we have a lot to work on. We've thought through this for 2 years now as a team, and we think we've come up with a good plan. And with that, I'll turn it over to Vladimir. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to talk to him either now or later.
Thank you.
Good evening, Vladimir Lubetsky, Principal with DRA Architects. Tripp covered pretty well the history of this project. Just to let you know, we looked into multiple options before we came up with this plan. As Tripp said, we worked on it for about 2 years. We looked into addition renovation options and several new construction options that resulted in the project in front of the board today, this evening. So just if we can...
Next slide.
Just to give you an overview of where we are here, the existing school is not shown on this rendering, but it's located right here. The proposed building is located right to the east of the existing building, on top of the, as you mentioned, top of the solar field and partially parking lot that's located there. And then, as you can see, the site gets replanned. Some existing fields remain and will be renovated, and then the baseball field is being constructed as a replacement in a different location here. We also provide another parking lot in this area, and there is additional field constructed right here in this part of the site. And then the new parking is constructed after the existing school building is removed. Just to give you a little overview of the programs that go into this building, this size, the population of the building is 1,000 students. It serves 1,000 students today, so there is no change in terms of number of students that will be coming here. There's 16 vocational programs that's being accommodated here, and then academic programs and spaces like gymnasium and multi-purpose auditorium and spaces of that sort. The building is organized, as you see, it's a very compact plan. It's organized around open to the sky courtyard right here, with the main entrance located of the parking there, all for security reason. As you know, entry points in the schools are very critical for security of the building. So we have one main entry point, and the secondary entry point to the building is right here. This is for customers of the cosmetology salon and the culinary arts restaurant. It's important to separate main public from people coming to the school. The school also provides education for postgraduate program there with cosmetology and nursing, which has, again, separate entrance to it. Otherwise, the plan is pretty clear. The industrial shops are located on two sides, all have overhead door entrances for each program to bring materials in and equipment and so on. And then the delivery area is located right here. There will be a loading dock there. The team will talk a little bit more about trash collection and everything else as part of the site plan review there. The building is mostly two-story except for this part of it that actually has three-story component to it. They're mostly classrooms located at the front. And then the rest of the vocational shops are located on the second floor. And then in green here, what we show is are the classroom academic spaces. And then we have gymnasium located on the second floor level as well. And the multi-purpose auditorium is located here. And then we have library media center in the front of the building. And as I mentioned, there is a third floor to the structure that, thanks, Jeff, and that is very limited. It's only the front portion here. In terms of materials that we're proposing for the building, and Jeff, you can go to the overall rendering. This is where the main entrance is. This is where the media center library is, as a vertical circulation stair feature here. And those are actually three-dimensional elements. You can describe it as bay windows for the classrooms here. And then this is the part entrance into the culinary arts program on this side, and there is a little plaza in front of the culinary arts restaurant to serve as extension of that program. The materials used on the building are precast concrete panels. They're high-performance concrete panels with insulation built into it. It's durable material that will last, as these buildings are designed to last for over 50 years. So we always use materials that will serve and perform that well. And then there's some insulated metal panel on the front of the building. The base is actually granite masonry base around the building and a few masonry components on the sides. In the shop areas, we have those overhead doors. We have translucent windows as part of the fenestration there. It's very practical as you look at it when it goes around the rest of the structure. So this is the general overview of the design. If you guys want to continue, then we can answer questions.
Jeff, could you go to the second slide, please? So again, my name's Steve Powers. We're the site engineers for the project. Before we get into the proposed site layout that David Warner's going to discuss, I just want to talk briefly about the location. I think everyone's familiar where Tri-County High School is. We are located just off of Old West Central Street, located to the south. There's a driveway connection there that leads up to the school. There's also a secondary driveway connection at Pond Street, which is on the western side. We're surrounded by single-family residential homes to the north and west of the project. And we have a number of condominiums that are located south and southeast. There is, on the eastern side of the property, an open piece of land that is currently undeveloped. It's owned by the Affordable Housing Trust of the town of Franklin. So we're not proposing any new entrances or access points to the site. We're maintaining these access points both on Pond Street and on Old West Central Street. As we get into the proposed site layout plan, we can show you we are shifting and expanding slightly the main entrance onto the property. From the northeast, the residential neighborhoods up in this area are really at a higher elevation, and it slopes from northeast all the way down to the southwest. We have a number of resource areas that are located on the site. Jeff, can you go to the next slide? this is the existing aerial of the site, the school in the middle, and then the solar field located to the east, which is where we're looking to propose the building. There's a number of wetland resource areas down in the southwest, down in those areas, as well as the northwest of the site. There is a couple smaller resource areas that are not state-regulated resource areas. We're currently in front of the Conservation Commission, as Mr. Lovett said earlier, for notice of intent approval. These are local jurisdictional areas, former stormwater basins that have developed hydric soils over time as a result of the solar field development, which was put in back in 2015. So that's essentially it for the existing overlay, the existing conditions. Jeff, could you go to slide 9? You get into the proposed site layout.
Okay, good evening. I'm David Warner, principal of Warner Larson Landscape Architects. Also on the call tonight is Ty Johnson, who's the project manager at Warner Larson. I acknowledge him. He's been doing a lot of the work with DRA and Samiotis on this. So the 3D rendering that Vladimir had shown earlier gave you a perspective view. This plan view, I think, is very helpful in terms of getting oriented spatially plan-wise. So the red outline that you see here is the existing building, and so then you can see the, oh thanks Jeff, and then the proposed building is set back on where the solar farm is now. So all of the fields that you see here are being reconstructed, natural grass playing fields with good solar orientation. Your softball field, the baseball field will have regulation size outfields. Right now the baseball field is undersized. The track is being reconstructed with an 8-lane straightaway and a 6-lane track with a natural grass field in the middle. And then the main game field here with the bleachers is centered close to the parking, more convenient. Right now there's no sports lighting in the scope of this project. As far as the traffic circulation, we have the driveway coming in is very close to its current location, but it's 32 feet wide, existing is 31, so it's basically so that you can have 2 lanes going out for a dedicated left turn and 1 lane coming in. And that width is carried all the way up to this intersection, where you also have a dedicated left turn lane to allow for buses to make a left there. Buses will go around the back of the school in a clockwise direction, so they're loading in a couple of different locations around the back driveway, which, by the way, is also access control for authorized vehicles only, with a gate located here and a gate located over in the back of the building here. So cars will be coming up as the white arrows and basically going around and dropping off in the front of the school and circulating back and turning right here. So at this point right here, where there's a turning moment where cars are coming and buses are moving, when buses are exiting, they will have the right of way. The school administration handles that right now in a similar fashion. They'll continue to handle that at that point, so we don't see any issues with that. And then just generally want to touch on site lighting. We're using very dark sky compliant full cutoff fixtures. The parking lot and driveway lighting fixtures are at 20-foot height, and we have pedestrian fixtures at the end of the front of the building, and really just provide a minimum level of safe lighting for public access. At this point, I think we should move right in and talk about drainage and utilities.
So the next slide, Jeff. So the next slide we have, so I had mentioned that we're mostly sticking to the same access points to the campus. Slight reconfiguration, slight widening, like David said. This other access we're installing strictly for emergency vehicles. It's sort of an additional access point where emergency fire and other emergency vehicles can come up this way. And another use for it is, one of the challenges of working on an existing campus is that the kids are still going to school. So we're trying to segregate out construction traffic as well to make sure that they have their own entrance to get in, especially with the first phases of the project, where we're actually doing mass grading and reconstructing the solar field in those areas. So that will provide kind of a singular access in and out for construction traffic. So that is part of our consideration. what I previously mentioned, these are some of the wetland resource areas located in blue. Again, we're in front of the Conservation Commission, but we're very conscious of trying to avoid those areas as well. We're making use of an existing access easement. It's currently gravel. It's got overhead wires heading up to that, so it seemed like a natural line up to the school and up to where we're proposing a new building. Next slide. And so this is just another exhibit that we did put into our planning board presentation, sort of gives site distances for the emergency vehicles coming in, sort of coming out of the site and what they see. We found that there's good stopping distances for them coming out, and hopefully we're not using it that often, but we did want to show that to the board. Next slide. So this is our utility diagram. It was 80 sheets plus submitted as part of the planning board submittal. So instead of going through each sheet, we wanted to try to give an overview, at least for this initial presentation, to show the board what we are doing. On this board, we're looking at water, sewer, electric, gas. We're providing new sanitary service to serve the proposed building. A new water main loop. So not only will it loop around the building, but we're also proposing a new water main extension all the way down to Old West Central Street. And this is partly in discussions with, partly what we found from hydrant flow tests on the property, but also in discussions with the fire department. They're aware of the flows on site kind of being on the lower side. So we wanted to try to address that as part of the overall project. So we are proposing a 12-inch line to connect to the Old West Central Street. Again, sanitary. To the rear, we do have grease traps, 2 grease traps associated with it for food prep and associated with the culinary program. And then new electric and new gas. All of this, again, will be coming up this secondary access that we're proposing. Found that is one way to install these new utilities without disturbing, or at least limiting as much disturbance as possible to the existing school and the operations that are going to be going on where the kids are still in the existing school for the next couple of years. Next. Stormwater, we sectioned off. As you can imagine, there's quite a bit of stormwater to deal with on the project. We are having it reviewed by Beta. We've had an initial work session as part of our submittal with the Conservation Commission, working through their comments. But just briefly, there's very limited stormwater treatment or quantity containment on the project now. It's the existing state. Mostly, it was to essentially pick up, runoff from some of the upgrading areas, carry it via stormwater conveyance, catch basins, drain manholes, convey it around the school, around the development, and essentially dump it into those wetlands down at the southwest portion of the stream. So what we're looking to do is, one, we want to control the runoff. We want to capture the runoff and detain it. We want to treat it. We have stormwater quality infrastructure that we're proposing as part of it, and then just really have a new stormwater conveyance system for a good chunk of the project. Again, leading to some of the same outfalls, but in this case, we're detaining it, releasing it at a rate that's currently more pre-existing, or the existing conditions, and then more importantly, treating it. So we are proposing 2 underground detention systems in the rear. The reason for just detention is there is high groundwater in the back. As we go through and do mass grading through here, we've done some test pits in the rear, and there is high groundwater. We are planning on cutting, especially in the northern portion of the property. So we thought really being able to bring off roof and the upper areas there, and we do have a little bit of a lack of space and try to balance the ongoing operations and where everything's going. So 2 detention systems in the back, and then these 2 up front, one right next to the adjacent driveway, and then one within the parking lot. Those will be proposing as infiltration systems, so we're able to recharge groundwater in those areas. Next slide. And David, you want to come back?
Yeah. Jeff, why don't we skip to the next slide after that, which is a little bit So what you can see here in terms of the areas around the new building and the courtyard in which Vladimir mentioned in the building presentation, your gate to get to the back of the building in this one-way circulation, clockwise direction, and then the gate at the other end, which allows for this parking lot in the south corner to be accessible to the program needs of the facility, like automotive, for instance. All of the vocational program access to the various shops is on the back of the building. And then, as you saw in the renderings that Vladimir presented earlier, the front of the building here is where you have the student access and the public access. And the main drop-off area out front for parents. So you have existing 460 parking spaces at the site and 485 proposed. As Vladimir said, the student populations remain the same, so we know that the parking that's being provided as part of this project is adequate to meet the school's needs.
And then the last part of the presentation is we wanted to bring in the construction manager. We do have a logistics plan, just to kind of walk the board briefly through how we plan on breaking it, or how they plan on building it and breaking it up.
Good evening, Steve Johnson with Consigli Construction. Overview of what we're looking at. This is the existing school currently. Here's existing Tri-County Boulevard, Tri-County Road, just so you can get your bearings. New project site. One of the first things we're doing this summer is expanding this parking lot, currently student parking. We're expanding that because we're going to be taking over the current staff parking back here. So we're going to expand this. We're going to put a new infield in for the softball field. Second thing we're doing, we talked about this access road. It's basically the utility lines currently, so we're expanding that, and we're going to temporarily pave that. We're also going to start running utilities that eventually feed the new school up that same road. Then third thing we're planning to do this summer is we'll establish the fence line around the new site. So the red and the blue and the yellow, the different colors here, that is fence that will have scrim on it that kind of separate us from not only the residents but the rest of the school and insulate us. We've got gate access on either side here. So all of our traffic, we plan to come up the blue path that you see. So we might, well, not might, we will potentially use this whole field for stockpiling soils, and we'll also use this little section as you're leaving Tri-County Road as stockpiling, but all of our truck and worker traffic will come up that blue path. You can see here, so starting in June, a separate contractor will be removing the existing PV panels, and then we'll start excavation and utility work, which will take us through much of the summer and into the fall. The next slide will show roughly, sometime in the winter, December, January, we'll be starting footings and foundations up at the building site itself. This will have been established, the new path, and we'll have started our stockpiling of soils here. Once school starts, this parking lot will be back open again, as well as this softball field. Summer of 2025 on the next, we'll start construction of the new field and track here. Stockpiling will continue, and at this time next year, we'll actually be erecting steel. So that'll take us a few months through next summer, as well as the construction of this field and the new track. Next slide shows we're in the 2026 here. This is complete. We're going to start working on the upper fields now as we work on the facade of the new school. So that'll take us into the spring of 2026. And then the summer of 2026, we'll hopefully be completing this upper field, as much of the field as possible, and we'll start our interior construction of the new school as well. Then lastly, 2027, new school is open for business. We will flip our fence, so the fence will be down, the temporary fence will be down, we'll flip it and start demolition of the existing school, so the blue fence around the existing school now. So at this point, school's open, these fields are complete, this parking lot remains open for a little bit, and then we start our demolition process in the summer of 2027. That continues, demolition continues, and then we start construction of the new baseball field and the new football field that goes in this location. In 2000, I believe the last one is 2028, shows the completion of all the new fields, brand new parking. This was sitting under the existing school. So the brand new parking is open, and Vladimir mentioned this road, this new entrance road does shift a little bit from what's currently up there right now. So intent around fall of 2028, hopefully it looks just like.
So,
Just one other quick thing, sorry Jeff, I forgot to point out that when we do establish our fence around the job site, we'll have signage, scrim, and it'll be very protected so that not only the school doesn't come in, but, you know, after hours it'll be secured, and we'll make sure that it's extremely safe.
Can I ask a quick question? When the new school's built,
Yes.
where's the parking if the old building's not down yet?
Where's
For
the
the
parking
students?
for the
For the
students?
students and staff, so
They're
everyone's
still
gonna, what about handicap accessibility and everything?
There
Get to the
is-
building?
If we go back, there's parking back here and here that will be completed before,
So you'll
before
have,
the.
cause it's
school
quite a
goes
hike
out.
from point A to point B.
Right, yeah, there's.
'Cause they're gonna have to
small-
walk-
There's smaller lots.
Yeah, cause they're gonna have to walk all the way around the fencing.
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you.
thank you, Steve. That concludes the initial presentation, and we're happy to entertain any comments by the board.
Jay?
It was a big presentation, there's a lot going on. We gotta get reports back from these guys before we can really dive into this. I only have like a few ones, and they're really concerning your access road. Did we check the grade on that?
I have a question.
Because I briefly went by the, like a grading plan for the site, and it looked like there was an awful lot of contour lines packed in real tight. So, I don't know if the grading for that's too particularly hot, and, I didn't like the way the fence was laid out, the gate. If someone's not looking, and they don't expect the gate there, and they kinda hammer it into that turn, they're gonna smash into the gate, so maybe to bring it out to the street, and that's all I have.
Sure. If I could just address the,
Yeah,
so we are aware that it is steep. And one of the reasons why we are not proposing it as a main access route or secondary access route for schools and buses is because of how steep it is. It is over 9%. And again, you know, we wanted to preserve, you know, singular construction entrance, and access at that point. And we thought, you know, with an emergency vehicle, access to that as well, since we were doing it and we were running utilities down there as well, and the fire department was on board with it. So it is a great point, you did notice, but, and that's why it's not a regular driveway.
I mean, it's exciting that we're finally at this point, right? It's been a long time coming. I know the MSBA process is it's a process. A few questions through the chair. All of the fields, new fields, are natural turf. What is the reason why they're all natural and none of them are artificial? I guess I saw in the report sort of describing the site. I guess one question I have is, are your current natural fields, there are fewer of them, are they irrigated?
Mr. Chairman, would you like us to respond to
Sure.
questions as they come up? Okay.
We can.
So there are adequate field space for the program. There's no need to consider synthetic turf if that's one of the questions that you have. Yes, all natural grass fields is what's proposed. Irrigation is going to be included on all of the fields at the lower level, the softball field, the baseball field, the field inside the track, and the main game field. The 2 practice fields up above at the upper terrace, at this point, I think the budget is such that they might not be irrigated. This is going to be like a well water source irrigation, which will have some limitations in terms of how much water we're going to be able to get out of the ground.
Okay, so that was, I didn't, I guess I missed that in the report, but the irrigation of the fields is gonna be well water. Okay, so it's not gonna be sort of, my one other question, or I guess where I'm going is this, or what sustainability goals does the project have? Is this part of the Green Schools program through MSBA? There's a massive roof there, you know, is this project going to meet net zero energy goals? I would love to hear what this project's achieving from that standpoint.
Is that something that the architect would like to respond to?
The project is targeting LEED silver threshold, so we're meeting all goals that are related for LEED silver points, I guess. So the energy is, I can quote you numbers right now, but basically the threshold we're looking for meets MSBA requirements for the additional reimbursement points.
The minimum requirements, yeah.
No, not the minimum, silver.
Yeah, I believe silver is the MSBA minimum, but I could be misspeaking. So you don't have any more aggressive target for that?
No, it's actually, frankly, for vocational school to get it to net zero is with industrial shops in there. We looked into this, we analyzed all possibilities here, and it's maybe a little bit of a lofty goal, and quite expensive for all communities.
And so there won't be any solar array on the roof?
We're looking into possibility with solar arrays over the school, and that's in the works, those considerations. School district is looking into possibilities here, but maybe even over the parking lots as a structures.
Or geothermal at any of the?
If I can jump in on
Yeah,
that.
thanks.
So I'm the budget guy. So before he can go draw or say we're gonna put solar everywhere, it has to come down to dollars and cents. And so unfortunately, to meet the reimbursement guidelines, LEED Silver got us the points to enhance our reimbursement from the state. However, to go beyond LEED Silver costs money. And we were very budget conscious with bringing this to the 11 communities supporting this. And while if we have the money as the project progresses, that is absolutely something from an operational standpoint, again, money, if we can invest in something like solar that has a 7-year payback and a 21-year life or a 25-year life, it's a no-brainer. If we don't have the money, we don't have the money. So it's a part of the process that will be ever evolving depending on how we are doing financially through the job.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Part of the reason I'm asking that too is because of the site grading. What I would love to see from this group is a couple of site sections from the neighborhood through the new school, down, kind of running north-south, down through to Franklin Crossing. There's a pretty thin line of trees that would remain between Franklin Crossing and where the new school is being proposed. And so I just want to understand what the relationship is of the south side of the new high school in particular to those existing residences. And then equally on the north side of the school, it looks like more significant vegetation is remaining, but it's still getting pretty close to the residences on that side of the site. And so, you know, it just, I would like to better understand sectionally the relationship and the sight lines, you know, especially the residences on the north, if they're looking down now on this sort of massive roof, especially in the winter, maybe the site section will show otherwise, but that's why I'm looking to see that, is just to make sure that we're considering what this looks like all times a year for abutters in particular. That's all for now, thanks.
Chris?
Thank you. I'll sound smart and say Jen took a lot of my questions. It was an interesting comment. You said there's no sports lighting currently. Does that mean in the future that there's a plan, and what does that look like from a photometric standpoint with the neighbors?
So it's not part of the project scope, is what I meant to say. That doesn't mean that at some point in the future, the school may choose to add sports lighting, and they would come back with a design at that point in time and go through the permitting process then. But we don't have any sports lighting in the design or the scope of the project at this point.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. And then the other question I had, the northwesterly stockpile point, which is nearest pond on the corner, looks like it's mostly clear now, but it looks like some vegetation may have to come down. Is there a plan to replace that, and how close is that stockpile to the neighbors that are there, being, you know, a nuisance to them, dust, dirt, etc.?
Yeah, the short answer is yes, we restore it to similar to what it is now, and we also protect that area. We would put fence and orchards and barriers around that, probably a combination of both, and with scrim again to, and then anything that's going to be there for an extended period of time would also be covered.
Great.
Or seeded
Okay,
as well, to stabilize.
great. Thank you. No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Good, okay. All good?
Yep, and these don't necessarily have to be answered tonight in the interest of time, because I know probably all getting tired. I appreciate your presentation, it's very thorough. The new school, the existing school building, do you have loading docks on the backside of the existing building?
Yes.
And they'll be operated in a similar fashion as, the new one will be operated in a similar fashion as the old ones?
Correct.
Okay, is there hours that you typically have deliveries or materials coming in and out of the school?
It varies, but, I mean, for the most part.
Business hours.
Yeah, it's business hours, and nobody wants to get involved in any of the traffic when everybody's coming and everybody's going.
Yep.
So, including us.
And typically, when you have activities on your fields, how late do those go?
Until it gets done, I mean, there's no lights.
No lights, so when it gets dark, it's the answer.
So normal school hours for activities and things like practices and whatnot, so it's just, yeah.
Yeah, there's no lights out there,
Yep,
so.
so you can't at night, gotcha.
And obviously in the fall and in the spring, when outside sports are played, because it's not during the summer.
Yep.
You know, you have that hip season lighting, which is, you know, we're around 6:30 or 7 on a good day.
Yeah, I think I think you commented on if and when you have lighting added to your fields, that you should definitely have a review of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not part of the project.
Yep, no,
So,
in the future, I'm saying.
if it gets,
yep.
if it gets added, yeah.
Yep. That's all I have right now. I'll wait for additional comments from the reviewers.
I got a question. If you're not gonna do the infrastructure for the lighting and you have all your fields in, what are you gonna do then?
That's assuming that they put lighting in.
Chances are you're gonna have lighting at some point. Just throwing it out.
I'm just throwing it out there, we don't have it today. But I hear you loud and clear.
You're doing a lot of work and
Yeah,
to not have some kind
from
of
a buildability
dark run.
and common sense, it makes sense to put some conduit
Put
in
some
there.
of the infrastructure
Yeah.
in anyways.
It would just put straight conduit in there, put it in the ground, and put a pull string in and call it a day. That is probably a wise move.
Money well spent.
Money well spent, but we're very budget conscious because it was a hurdle to get this thing approved. And we wanna make sure we can make the classrooms before we make the fields.
I'm sorry, guys, I know it's late. One last question. I know this time frame is been going on forever, but I assume that the school is gonna have to follow the new stretch code. Can someone confirm that this is meeting those energy requirements?
Yes, maybe new stretch code.
Yeah, so it will meet the new stretch code. What was interesting about this project, though, as far as the MSBA,
Yeah.
because you sound very knowledgeable about this, is that this project occurred right at the transition. And we had an option, either or, to follow the lead silver and the old model of the MSBA, or follow the new all-electric project that is commonly being done now. And we chose, because we had done 100% of the design at that stage, it was SD, but we had done the design. In order to do the new program that the MSBA, we'd have to go back and revise the design. And thus, we would have had to change timing, and we would have had to pay more money for the design.
It was unfortunate.
It was just timing.
Yeah.
Unintentional, and, you know, it was, you know, make lemonade out of lemons.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
All set?
Yes.
Mark?
No, I think it's a great presentation, and my only comment is I have a granddaughter who's a sophomore, and she's gonna be mad that it's not gonna be done by the time.
Yeah, there are gonna be students that are gonna be unhappy.
so-
They're gonna be happy to come back and look.
So, but I thank you for your presentation, though.
And you guys all set? I just had a couple quick questions. Knowing the nature of the beast up there, how much blasting you anticipating?
That's a tough question. We've been going back and forth with it a lot. Initially,
Could you do any test holes up there already?
well, we have done test holes, and what's surprising, because as the high hillside on the north, it appears that was a lot of rock, and a lot of hard rock, very, very hard rock. Blasting is going to probably be in the scope. It certainly is on the southern portion where we're putting the new road in this summer. When we do blasting, we want to do it short and sweet. We want to get it, we want to have our layout all figured out. We can't do that until we move the solar panels. We can go in and do more test holes, because right now the panels are in our way. But once we can get in there and figure it out, then we want to do a survey of the topography of what we think the ledge is, and then and do a yard count, and then bring in, you know, like main blasting once and get it over with.
And that would include your access road for all your utilities too?
Yeah. Yeah,
so
we don't think we're gonna hit anything in the access road. It's once we get up near the solar field, we saw an outcropping of some very hard rock. Matter of fact, when they put the solar field in, I think the neighbors in the condos listened to them banging with a hoe ram, and it was problematic because they were making no progress, and it was noisy and what have you. And so then at that point in time, the actual site plan was changed in the field by the town of Franklin and by Beta, I believe, or maybe your predecessor.
It's changed by the contractor.
Oh, okay, well, we can get into that, but
Yeah.
let's not. So what we found is, in order to not bang on that rock, that the site conditions changed, and so we know that rock is real hard, and so we're not going to even attempt to be that disruptive. We just go in and do it clean and crisp.
Okay. I actually just got a few more questions. The access road going in, looks like it has some funny bends, and I know you said it's a pretty good slope. How close is that to the Franklin crossing, and how many trees you cut that through? How much land clearing are you doing to get that access road off? In the second part of that question, if that's your access road, how are you gonna manage your deliveries and whatnot when school is coming into play, when school's out of play at that main intersection at the radius, because that's a tough intersection there.
Yeah,
If you could, Steve.
The access road actually comes,
Yeah, right there.
it comes up onto the current school property.
What's your distance to the units right there, and the white, those
Right here.
buildings, yeah? What are you on that corner, the tightest point? And how much tree clearing will you have to do to cut through there?
So there's a knob that kind of goes like this right now, currently with trees. So that comes out, and if this is the current drive around the school here.
Yeah.
We're actually going to widen it a little bit so that we can put our access road kind of on one side and and they have access on the other side of the road. So
Yes.
it's really not coming any further south than what's there right now. It's just this section of wooded area does come back.
So the light green represents your temporary road though?
Yes.
All right, so you'd be carving off the left-hand side, so that's what I was trying to figure out.
Yeah.
And then once you get to the bottom of that, it's about managing your traffic. There was another slide that showed
So
the
what-
lowest section there. I just wanna make sure that you guys think it through,
Yeah, we
because there's
institute
school in and out.
what we call blackout times.
Okay.
So no deliveries
Okay.
during school pickup or drop off.
How about
So morning
staging,
and after.
staging areas for the new building within the site,
Yeah.
on site?
We got a lot of room in the
Enough
back.
room?
We're gonna, a lot of the contractor parking is going back here too.
Okay. All right, thank you. Oh, I had pre and post runoff during construction. Matt, you may have to get involved with that, with the land clearing and sediment and all that stuff for down below in the lower section. I just had that once they clear it and rub it, it's gonna be wide open. So just be cognizant of that. But I'm sure conservation will.
Right. Are you talking about the secondary access track?
Yeah, you just the site in general, cause it's gonna be going on for what, 4.5 years?
Sure.
You wanna make sure you maintain, silts and everything
Yep.
and whatnot, runoff from the hill down to the Franklin crossings and through the roads and whatnot.
Yeah,
That's all.
we're in the process of logistically working that out. And I do want to add one thing about the secondary access road. You know, keep in mind, this is still, you know, it's a gravel driveway, so it's already been significant amount of clearing up there. We're just trying to reuse that. And yes, there will be some additional clearing, but we're trying to be cognizant of the surrounding woods and of course the neighbors.
So when you're done, you're gonna pull up that asphalt and just plant grass through that area, or you're gonna leave the asphalt?
We are leaving the asphalt.
You will leave it?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Gate on the other end, obviously?
yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Good. Yep, audience. Anybody in the audience have any comments, questions? If you do, just please approach the mic.
Hi, my name is Mary Jo Yesikovich, and thank you, all of you, and all of you, for all the work that you're doing on this. I live at the end of MacArthur Road. Two sides of my property touch the Vogue, and yes, I know, there's a school there, okay? I currently look out my kitchen window and very clearly see the back of the school. In other words, I am very close. I've been a good neighbor for 28 years, and absolutely so has Tri-County. My concerns relate to some of the things that you've discussed already, so we'll just go by quick. They're mostly questions. Lighting, says there be no sports lighting. How about, will there be any other regular lighting on the fields at this time? Does anyone know that?
No lighting on the
No
fields.
lighting on the
Just
fields?
within the building for safety purposes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
yeah.
driveways, parking areas,
That's what I was told. I just
pedestrian
wanted to verify because I'd gone down, talked to Ms. Love and to look at the plans and I couldn't tell what I was looking at, so I just wanted to verify that. And obviously, you know, as you mentioned, there might be sports lighting added later, and we'll cross that bridge as we get to it. Let's see, the noise, okay. Schools are noisy, I know that, I taught, I love teenagers, okay. The woods between my house, my property line, and the new multi-purpose field is very thin, okay. Oak leaves drop, and I'm very, very close. And I would like to see all those wonderful slides that you showed these good people, just so I can see perspective where these fields are going to be exactly, okay. Field noise is going to have a direct impact on my house. I'm not gonna be able to sit out on my deck and enjoy my yard while things are going on, okay? And basically, I'd like to know where the multi-purpose field actually is and where the practice field behind my house, both of those, I believe, touch the back of my property. And I would like to know how close they are from the edge of the field to my actual property line, like as aerial, you know, as a bird flies type of thing. I'd asked Tri-County if it was possible to have sound barriers put at the level of the new fields. I was told, quote, acoustic barriers are not practical or effective in this type of condition. The fields are below your property. I am way up high on the hill. Myself and the gentleman next to me, his family and me, we are the highest residents in Franklin. At least we were. I don't know if anyone else has beat us out in the last few years, but we were. We're pretty darn high up, and we get a beautiful sunset across. So I'd like to know if there's been any professional acoustic specialists who've looked at the noise concern, because noise comes up the hill. I hear the train whistle, I hear the games on the field where they are now, okay? You know, noise comes up the hill very easily. So I'm just looking to mitigate as much as possible. Football games are loud, you know, air horns. Is there any decibel level that they can't go above? The buzzers, and I'm saying, I am right there. Distance, again, I'd like to know where we are, where my home is in relationship to the field. And is there any town rules concerning the proximity to a property line versus a field? Who knows, okay? And if there's a plan I can look at, so I can see exactly where this is, because I've looked at many plans over this time, but everyone keeps telling me it's an artist's rendition, where I'd like to actually see concretely where it's going to be. And the demolition of the old school, I heard two different things mentioned tonight. I heard 2027 and also 2028, so if someone could clarify actually when that is. And again, as it gets closer, is the blasting going to be close to my house? And when the demolition of the house, of the school is, again, I'm looking right at it. What's going to be done to protect my property at that time?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience have any comment, question?
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Before she comes to the microphone. As regards to the fields, will you be having scoreboards and air horns, microphone system, music playing, PA system?
Just during the day anyways.
And-
Not in the code, on the main game field.
Yes, we will have a scoreboard. Yes, there will be a PA system like every other school has.
Just curious, and then where?
No air horns, we don't. People bring their own air horns.
Okay, next question would be if you could show somewhere on a plan if you plan to have bleachers for spectators, how they would situate.
You don't need to.
You can answer them next time. You can do it next time. I'm good, that's fine.
Okay.
Next time's fine.
You said you've had a comment? Approach the mic, please.
Hello, thank you for listening. My name is Marie Del Zoppo, 412 Franklin Crossing Road. I'm on the Board of Trustees of Franklin Crossing Condominium. A couple of things. I did meet with Karen McGuire recently, and the school has always been a really good neighbor to us, and I'm assuming they're going to continue to be. Just a few points. We talked about the students parking on our property. They do it now, and they cut across into the school, into their parking area. With the new school being in such close proximity, it's going to be a very attractive place for students to park and cut across. We have really no way of monitoring it. We don't have site staff until after school has begun. And if they park in our visitor parking area, we can't determine if they're a resident's car or, well, we can determine if it's a resident's car, if it's a visitor's car or a student. So what I had talked with Karen about was she had suggested repurposing the fence around the solar array. I think you said it was is it a 6-foot fence? Mm-hmm. And putting that as a border between our properties to hopefully stop that behavior from the students. I didn't see it on the site plan, so I was just wondering if that's something that's still going to be happening.
It is. That's one of the first things we're doing. First thing.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
We're worried about the teachers too, not just the kids.
All right. I know that it has been mentioned here that plan is not to disturb as much of the existing vegetation as possible. But I was wondering about screening between those buildings that are very close to the new school and the new access road and the trees that are there now are deciduous trees. The leaves fall, and during the fall, the winter, and the spring, which is when school is in session, there is no screening. So I didn't see any evergreens in the planting plan, that tall evergreens to help screen some of this. Runoff. Runoff from the construction site. And I ask because, like, when we had when they did the solar array, when it was installed, the first like 3 or 4 storms, we had a significant amount of water and debris run right down Franklin Crossing Road. And it was an absolute mess. And I'm concerned that if the same thing happens during the construction, which is a huge project with a lot of debris, that it's gonna clog our catch basins and our detention areas, so.
That's why I brought it up.
Yeah, I know, thank you for doing that, I appreciate that. Half of these things have already been addressed, and I really do appreciate it. I couldn't see the screen, so I'm still confused about the traffic pattern. How is that new access road, which is right now just currently a dirt road, going to be utilized once the school is opened? Are the school buses coming up that road, or trucks coming up that road? I didn't see it, so I don't understand what it's being used for.
You wanna just answer that?
Sure, so, there's no school buses, there's no passenger vehicles, it's just construction traffic coming up there to segregate it from the kids and the staff that's coming in the main drive aisle. That will still be the main entrance point, essentially where it is now. And then after construction is complete, it's just gonna serve as a secondary emergency exit road.
Okay, all right, so the road that goes right by Franklin Crossing, how is that gonna be used? What's gonna be driving by all people's houses at Franklin Crossing, I guess is what I wanna know.
So just construction traffic during construction up in that area, and then just emergency vehicles.
So nothing's gonna use that road?
The access road. But the main drive does go by the back side.
Okay.
There is a loop around the building.
Okay, and so
Wow.
what's
Gotcha.
the traffic pattern goes to the left, and then.
Counterclockwise over the north.
Can you show me?
Yeah, sure.
Look at the screen, actually, if you can point it out to us right there,
I
it's
need a
easy
visual.
for.
Jeff, can you go to, the LA, yep.
Yep, right there.
So yellow is the bus traffic
Okay,
coming in,
okay,
and then around,
and,
and then out that way.
and then they go out that way,
And they
okay,
go out
so
that
the
way.
buses are gonna be going by the property,
And the white is the passenger vehicles.
okay. And where are the buses going to be stopping to pick up the kids and dropping the kids off?
It's on the north side.
A couple of locations, north side and east side primarily.
So north side, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, so it
And
sounds
you,
like.
I still have a couple of
Oh,
things,
okay.
I'm sorry, I think you already touched on this. Deliveries and trash pickup, to limit them until after 7 a.m. to mid-afternoon, so the people that are sleeping aren't woken up in the morning, because that makes a considerable amount of noise. If you could do that, it'd be appreciated. We also had our engineer take a look at the site plans, and he is going to conduct periodic monitoring along the property line, and he did have a couple of questions, and I think some of this did come up. Dust, what measures during construction is going to be put into place to control dust, which will blow downwind right onto our property. Is there a plan to mitigate disturbances from excess noise and vibration? And what are the hours of construction going to be, and will weekend construction be allowed?
So you're gonna have a SWIP plan?
Yep. So we do have a stormwater pollution prevention plan, which addresses dust and sediment and stockpiling. That'll be part of, right away as part of the early bid package as soon as they start moving earth.
Okay.
So that is one.
All right. What about that? It's gonna be noisy. There's no way around it. But do you have any plan in place to mitigate the construction noise at all, or and working weekends? What are the hours of construction going to be?
It would be during construction hours. I believe it's part of it, 7 a.m.
7
to
to 5,
yeah,
I think.
Saturday.
7 to 3:30.
And will you be working on Saturday?
I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I think we
we,
have to go.
we're used to it.
I think we have to go to the building inspector and ask permission.
Okay, all right. We've had nonstop construction since 2020. Blasting, will it be necessary? I think that was answered. Is Franklin Crossing and the homeowners of Franklin Crossing going to be offered a pre-blast survey?
Yes, that's part of the.
Okay, so that's part of it. They have to do that, right? I think?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's through fire department as well.
Okay. And then what measures will be in place to prevent encroachment and prevent damage to Franklin Crossing property? And what is the process for reporting violations and/or damage?
May I make a suggestion? You have a lot of questions there.
I do.
And I'm wondering if you can send us an email outlining your questions that we can have responses to you
Sure.
at the next meeting, if that's helpful.
Yeah, that works for me. That'd be
Perfect.
great. I'll just list everything, even though we already discussed some of it, but
Yeah.
I'll list it.
That way we can get you thorough and detailed answers.
I appreciate it. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. It's
Okay, and
okay.
who should I send it to?
Sure, it's, A.
Send it to me.
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All good? Okay.
Anybody online?
Nope.
No, there's been a few messages coming up online, so I wanted to make sure.
I think there, some of them were noise related,
Air horn, noise.
covered
Yeah.
lights
Yeah.
and sound.
So what do you think?
I gotta check. I don't, June 3rd?
Were you trying to kill me? No, that
I don't know. It's
know.
either,
Sure.
it's either
You see
that
what
or the 17th.
you see
I
what
mean,
time it
I
is?
don't know.
We'll take the 3rd, and if we need to continue, I can go through you.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah, I would just suggest that if there are any butters out there, I'd love to hear your comments, but if you have lengthy lists, it is helpful for us to have them in advance to be able to prepare some answers for you. So if you have anything you'd like to, touch upon in detail, send it along to Amy.
And I do know we have stormwater comments as part of the notice of intent. Do we have site plan review comments upcoming?
Those were issued.
They were issued.
And if I might, as we get questions from neighbors and things like
They're
that,
online.
we try to
Under the agenda.
depersonalize them a little bit, so it's not pointing that this
The
neighbor said
agenda.
this, that, or the, but we take the topic, we answer it, and we put it on the FAQs
Great.
on our website. So as we're getting these questions, and they may be redundant, and several of the people online, go to the website, because the answer may already have been posted there.
Would you mind providing that website address for those that are watching? And
Yeah,
Well, Tri-County's website, there's a link to the building.
There is, okay,
There is, so-
great,
Right, straight on.
perfect.
So people-
I think it's Tri-County Building Project.
Okay, great,
All right?
good, thank you.
So Amy, what did we come up with?
June 3rd.
Okay.
Motion to continue until June 3rd.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Hold on a minute. General business.
Ready? Oh, yes, but is it too late to mention?
No, that's my point. I just want to make a quick point for Amy. I want to see if Amy can send a letter to Taj about the lavender trim.
Oh, yeah.
In special permit called the white trim. So whether it be removed or painted before they come back for a final,
Yeah, you already gave him a final.
We already gave them a final?
No,
Oh, didn't
they're
it
coming-
hinge
no,
on-
they came back in partial. They still have to come back.
They still have to come back for the
Final?
front building.
No, they still have to come
They still have to come back for the front building.
Still haven't done the,
And they haven't done the patio seating area either, so. I can't go in here without hearing about that trim.
These are, it actually is a printout of the
That's all
questions
what was
I
approved, that's all.
had asked in case you wanted that
It's a white trim.
email address in the bottom. And the other thing was.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Exactly, because I've seen so many and this is.
Wow.